6th, Jocks 94.5. College football last night, college football tonight. College football playoff rankings last night, first ever to be released. We'll get your thoughts on that. Do you like it? You hate it? What did you like? What didn't you like? What are you concerned about? We'll discuss it all across the course of the show today. We'll have Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, coming up in 15 minutes off their big win against Tulsa last Saturday. Jake Thompson's going to update us on Ole Miss, the health of that football team heading into the Georgia game at 8:30 today. Pete Nakos, a good article on college football hot seats that are beginning to kind of surface, show up, and then get his thoughts on college football playoff rankings as well. Greg McElroy was there for the historical first ever college football 12-team playoff rankings show last night. I think I got all the words in there that need to be appropriaply placed.
All-state.
Take us behind. They don't pay me to say that, so it's probably not going to get there.
In a roundabout way, I'm sure there's some All-State money that's being funneled in your direction. Well, it might be pennies on the dollar for both of us, but it is in fact going to the the greater conglomerate that is Disney, which thereabouts gets laundered into our pockets at some point.
Did you just say laundered?
I felt like
that's a hell of an accusation by you 5 minutes into the show. I'm just saying.
I think All-State's money's dirty to get laundered before they go. I'm just figuring it tumbles a couple times through the Walt Disney Company before 1 or 2 pennies comes out in our direction.
That is some mayhem.
Yeah, mayhem, exactly.
Like me.
A couple big takeaways from last night.
Well,
Did you have some?
Hold on. Yeah, I did. But you said somehow they get our money. Allstate actually does get my money. So
look at you.
Jimmy Anthony hadn't called me in like 7 years about it. So maybe we should revisit that. Wink, wink. I want you to first take us behind the scenes. Like just kind of set the stage for us because you were there. You guys were talking about it. You know, you find out, when everybody else finds out, just what was sort of the vibe? What was the thought? And, what was going through your mind, everybody else's mind before these actually came out?
Well, I am one, and I don't mean to be a person that sounds the alarm, but I am one that feels like the rankings matter. But it sounds like I'm in the minority. If the rankings didn't matter, then why would we do them? I think there's things that you can learn. It's not that dissimilar to, and not to get political, but it's not that dissimilar to a poll that is taken. I'm not saying that it holds all the weight in the world, but it's interesting. Nothing else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of where we're at. It's a poll of the 13-member college football playoff committee to just kind of see what they're thinking. And I think there's a few takeaways. One, the Big 12 and the ACC are probably going to have just one team in. If chalk flies and we fast forward to the end of the year, even if BYU loses in the conference championship game, they're right now sitting behind 3 teams that they have a better resume than. Like BYU, whether you like it or not, has a better resume than Tennessee, Texas, and Penn State, and yet they sit 4 spots behind Texas at the moment. So Big 12's getting one in. If I'm BYU, I'm the most upset last night. I think the ACC is in a similar boat. Unless SMU runs the table, wins the conference, and Miami sits at 12-1. I think in that scenario, the ACC can get 2 in. But it was very clear that there was a heavy tilt towards the SEC and the Big Ten. The Big Ten had 4 teams in, but all 4 were in the top 8, and the SEC littered the top 15, 16, or 17. And I think you could have made a strong argument on behalf of South Carolina and Vanderbilt that were probably among the first few that were out of the top 25. So it's definitely the air is thin in the SEC and the Big Ten, and I think it was reflected in that.
I hate to say I told you so, but I think we collectively agreed BYU would be what they missed yesterday when we discussed this. And I agreed with you watching last night that was the team that felt like the biggest swing and miss from the committee yesterday. And I don't like admitting this. I don't like saying this. I think a lot of the reason when we talked about it yesterday, that's what I said. There's almost no buzz about them. Who's talking about BYU? Like nationally, analysts, people talking about their games, an individual player. I guarantee if you went around and walked the streets of Birmingham or New Orleans or Atlanta or Baltimore and said, who's better at football, Colorado or BYU? 99% of people are going to say Colorado because people have heard people talk about them. mean, they get conversation. So, and it's
amazing how that works.
It's unfortunate that is a part of it and that is real, but it's just, that's where we are. So I thought you had good points on it last night, had good things to say about it. There wasn't anything that really I saw that I just was extremely angry about or said, oh, this is ridiculous, I'm not going to be able to get over this. I will say this. I don't like Ohio State at 2. I think they're 2 because their best win just happened. I mean, that's me.
I'll tell you why they're 2. Ward Manuel just told us. He said that who you lost to and how you lost kind of matters. I mean, he basically said that on the show, which to me is a laughable take. And I haven't had a chance to really respond to that. But I think that's why Tennessee's behind Texas and Penn State, because Tennessee lost to Arkansas, Texas lost to Georgia, and Penn State lost to Ohio State. Ohio State lost to Oregon, Georgia lost to Alabama. Alabama's not as good as Oregon, so therefore Ohio State must be better. Like that, to me, the transitive property as it relates to losses might be the dumbest way of evaluating teams. And yet I think the committee might actually be putting some stock into that, which I found absurd.
If he's saying it, does that not all but guarantee it for you? We're never going to talk to him. They're never going to tell us. But I mean, for me, if he's saying that, that means he's at least heard that conversation at some point.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like he said it a little bit in jest, take into account who they lost to. I mean, like he didn't really say that was like a defining characteristic of their resume, but to me, if it's at all a part of the conversation, it's flawed. Because that to me means that we have moral victories in our evaluation process. And I will never, ever be one that will align with moral victories, especially when we're evaluating playoff contenders. Like if you lost, you lost. I don't care if the team you lost to is NIU, a la Notre Dame, or if the team you lost to is Oregon, a la Ohio State. I don't care. You lost. You failed that day. Now, how many times you fail and how badly you fail is something that I think can be weighed. But losing by 4 on the road to a team that is 5-4, to me, is not that different than losing by 1 on the road to a team that's number 1. Like, they're both failures. So that was a little troubling to me hearing that yesterday, to be honest with you.
Do you think it's maybe... Okay, these teams, after we get past, Miami, Oregon, Indiana, BYU, we're going to be talking about them having a loss as it is. Should that not be a part of how you weigh those teams against one another? Because it's obviously you're not going to have a lot of similar teams to weigh them against, either winning or losing against.
Yeah, when we're talking about the bottom of the top 25, I'm fine with that argument. You know what I mean? Like if you want to measure South Carolina's candidacy, and you say, well, South Carolina lost 2 games by 2 points to Bama, 3 points to LSU. They beat A&M. Like they deserve some consideration. You want to talk about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt lost, I think, by 5 to Georgia State or 4 to Georgia State. They lost by 3 to Texas. They lost by 3 to Missouri. So Vanderbilt, yeah, they lost close. Like you want to talk about teams ranked 18 through 25 in that way, fine. But we're talking about teams 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 6. Like those teams up there, and we're using, they lost close in this game to a good team. That to me is a troubling argument, especially when they don't really have a good win at their disposal.
So are you more bothered by excusing losses, or are you more bothered by how you weigh those losses against one another?
I don't like weighing losses. I like weighing wins. I will always subscribe to what you're capable of on your best day. That to me will always matter more when evaluating the possibility of a playoff team. Now, you got to be consistent. You got to win the games. I'm not suggesting that, we put Arkansas in the playoff because on their best day, they beat Tennessee. Like, no, I'm not suggesting that. But I am suggesting that I'm fine with Ohio State being at 2. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with Georgia being at 3. If you want to flip them, to me, it's inconsequential. Because on their best day, both those teams have wins against quality competition. You know who doesn't? Texas. You know who doesn't? Penn State. You know who doesn't? Indiana. But in Indiana's defense, they haven't had the chance yet either. We'll see what happens here in a couple weeks.
Here's what's dangerous about some of this. And I agree with some of what you're saying. I think a little bit of me disagrees with not necessarily weighing losses against one another, but I do think if you have two teams with the same record, you weigh those against, what they were comparatively. And I think most people would probably not fully disagree with you there, but at least to an extent. The problem with where we're going with this entire conversation, Greg, is that they can control this narrative. You can make Oregon have the best win in the nation. You can make Ohio State have the best loss in the country. Put them number 2. If Ohio State's number 5 because of the eye test, and let's say those committee members are in there grinding tape and saying, man, this offensive line is sloppy. Look at this other team drop the ball half the time when they play them. Or, man, they got away with one in that one. Well, they should be 5. We think Miami, Georgia, Texas are all better football teams than them. Now, does Oregon have the best win in the nation? I mean, if they really believe because Cam Ward was just that good, that dangerous, and that team had that much speed that they were the best team in college football, and you wanted to excuse Ohio State being lower, couldn't you put Miami at 1 and Oregon at 2? And now maybe you begin to debate if Ohio State has the best loss in college football? I mean, it's just, and I don't think that they think that, but it just made me think of how you were explaining that there's a part of this they can control if that's how they want to look at it.
There's no question. And that is, but here's the thing is there's really no way for them not to have some challenges when putting this whole thing together, right? Like we got to give them a little grace because I think you can, like you said, you can adjust Oregon and giving them the best win or Ohio State and giving them the best win. Frankly, based on what the committee just did, Georgia has the best win amongst the one-loss teams because Texas is ahead of Penn State. And, I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm not one that believes, this is just us talking here, I am not one that the committee believe. I'm not one that believes that the committee is in there grinding on what the left guard of Ohio State is doing. I've never believed that. I've never thought that they're watching tape and watching it as if they are. And I'm not talking. There might be 2 or 3 committee members that are, but I don't think there's 13 that are all in there like, oh gosh, see, they use nothing but slide protection. You can attack them 2 outside the tackle and they're toast. Like, I don't think they see it that way.
That boundary corner he can't play with leverage.
I'm telling you what, that boundary corner just lives in press coverage, and he can't get anyone off. Everyone's getting past him on the inside of the leash. I can't put him inside
the top 10 because of this guy. I just can't do it.
Too much of a liability on the edges of the defense. I mean, this guy's a bull in a china shop, and he just can't contain.
Tight end's a blocking nightmare. I can't put him in the top 10. I'm sorry.
This number 13 at tight end will not touch anybody. But my God, if he has the ball in his hands and he smells the pylon, he can reach out and run somebody over then.
No, I'm with you on that, though. I would agree with that.
I don't, and I wouldn't expect them to, which is why I have adopted the metrics and the efficiency ratings and stuff like that, because I think they use those. Whether or not you subscribe to them or not, they're used, so you might as well use them in your evaluation. And I look at the efficiency ratings, and the efficiency ratings don't make sense either. So that's what's hard for me is I look and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, why is so-and-so here? All right, well, let's use BYU as an example. All right, just because I think they're the most egregious example of what it is we're describing. And I'm not sitting here trying to pound the drum for BYU. If BYU were playing tomorrow on a neutral field against Georgia, I'm taking Georgia, okay? So let's hear me when I say that. But I don't think, like you, that they're grinding the tape. But let's look up their unit efficiency rankings. BYU is 22nd on offense. That is 7th among the top teams. Tennessee is behind them on offense, but everyone else in front of them is in front of them. They're 16th on defense. That is in front of Oregon, who's 18th. That is in front of Miami, who's 70th, 7-0. And they are behind Indiana on defense, who's 34th. All right, well, let's look at special teams. I don't usually factor in special teams. They have the best special teams efficiency of anybody that's ranked in front of them, including Penn State, who's 125, and Texas, who's 128. So we're looking, all right, they have a win, and they're pretty much across the board, rock solid as far as their efficiency ratings. You want to go to strength of schedule? Perfect. They're 61st. Guess who's in front of them? Indiana at 103. Guess who's also up there? Texas, 54. I mean, that's comparable. 61 and 54. Those are close, right? Strength of record, which is basically your resume. They're fourth. They're fourth in the country. The only teams in front of them are Miami, Georgia, and Oregon. And then you go to game control. That basically is eye test. How badly are you beating teams? They're 8th. Well, Penn State's 20th. Miami's 15th. Tennessee's 13th. And here they are sitting there at 8th. So I look at all the metrics. They're supporting BYU, and they have 2 wins against teams that are in the committee's top 19. I just don't understand it. So if they're not watching the tape and they're not using the efficiencies and they're not going off best wins and they're not going off of strength of record, strength of schedule, game control, what are they going off of? Brand? Because if they're going off brand, we got problems. And that's where I would be a little concerned moving forward, seeing how things sorted themselves out last night.
Yeah, that would make sense. All right, let's get to a break. When we come back, UAB head football coach Trent Dilfer joins us to recap a massive win against Tulsa. That's next on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. He joins us each and every Wednesday. It's UAB head football coach Trent Dilfer. Quickly, I'll tell you about our friends at Train before he hops on. Protect your HVAC system with a checkup from a Train comfort specialist. So when cold weather hits, you'll have peace of mind that you're protected by America's most reliable and trusted HVAC brand. Find a comfort specialist near you at train.com. Remember, it's hard to stop a train. All right, Coach, we're talking about the college football playoff rankings that came out last night. I'm not going to bother you with what you think about who is where, but as far as how we judge, grade, rank, maybe try to differentiate between football teams in general. I know you could probably just watch it and come to a conclusion yourself, but for those who maybe cannot or don't, how would you suggest we differentiate between who's better than who?
Put me on the spot there. Actually, just as you guys were in break, looked at them for the first time. I actually probably agreed with them, to be honest with you. I think there is one, I think the committee has to have really good football people on it, which I don't know every name on there, but the people I do know are, for the most part, pretty good football people. You have the conference strength, right? I mean, there are just certain conferences that are superior to other conferences. And I think I can say this being an AAC guy. Like, you look at a 6th or 7th best SEC team is typically better than the 2, 3, 4 of the other conferences. Your eyeball tells you that. I think there's quality losses. I really do. I do believe you can lose a game to a really good team, play really well, and that could count as a quality loss. I think what's really important is how they're playing at the end of the year. And this is my NFL background. Like, there's a lot of teams right now in the NFL, you're like, they're not going to be in the Super Bowl. And of course the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. They're winning every game. But then you start looking post-Thanksgiving of who's playing the best, and those are the teams who usually win the Super Bowl. You know, the teams that are playing best at the end of the year. So I think how you're playing at the end of the season. So let's look at, November 16th, November 23rd, November 29th, conference championship games. Like, to me, those games should be weighted more than earlier in the season games.
When you look at how, I guess, your team has now responded and the start that you've gotten off to in November, I'll give you the floor. That had to have felt good this past weekend.
Well, I was really happy for the kids. I kept saying, and I know everybody's rolling their eyes thinking I'm a crazy man, which they're probably right half the time, but, we had been practicing really well, and we had been getting better, and we just had seen zero fruit of our labor on Saturdays. And I was pulling out the remaining hair that I have, and I was like, I've never seen this before. I've never seen a team prepare and practice at a high level than play at a low level. So to keep preaching the same message, I was telling our coaches one day, I'm like, do you know how hard it is to stand up in front of that team and sell something that they're not getting? To sit there and look them in the eyes and say, hey, good things are coming. Sunshine is coming. Right now it's gray skies and rain and wind, but sunshine is coming. And somehow they've bought into it. And then for them to, have some fruit of their labor and see some sunshine on, metaphorically, obviously, on Saturday, I was just really happy that they got some affirmation from that. We showed glimpses of what I've been able to see throughout the year in practice, that, we have talented players. We have good schemes. When we don't implode, we can play at a high level, and that there were far fewer mistakes that cost us. And when we did make mistakes, we made up for them by showing the explosive qualities that we have on both sides of the ball.
UAB head football coach Trent Dilfer with us on the Buyers Right hotline. 59-21 over Tulsa Saturday. Jalen Kitna goes 25 of 32, 404 yards, 6 passing touchdowns. I felt like the protection was pretty good. Didn't need a ton of balance in the game, like you said, Coach, because you got those explosive plays from multiple players. What did you look at and say, this was the piece, like you just referenced most, that it had been there in practice. It had not been showing up in the game, specifically on offense, that you thought you were going to get the last couple of weeks and then finally got it in this one?
Explosive plays. Like it's been kind of the theme of our season offensively is what we've left on the field. In Jalen's starts before this game, we left over 250 yards of passing and a handful of touchdowns on the table because of drop balls. We didn't drop the ball. We had multiple receivers running wide open in the secondary, and a protection thing broke down, and we didn't have as many of those. We had opportunities to split them in the run game, although we didn't try to run it a lot on Saturday. We had 3 or 4 really effective runs that, the one guy finishes with a shove, allows the back to kind of see it, cut off of it, and get, 12, 15 yards. We had a couple of those. Our movement game, you got to change the launch point of the quarterback. We hadn't been successful changing the launch point. We changed it, I think, 7 times in that game and completed 6 of them. So we were able to change the launch point and be productive. So things that we had, were close all season long, we actually finished on offensively. And then Jalen, he really played, he made 4 or 5 Pro Bowl level plays, like NFL Pro Bowl level plays. I told him, I said, you got to save us from a couple bad calls. You're not going to call 75 great plays. You're not going to call 40 great passes. Like, you're going to make some mistakes as play callers. And the few, we made, I would say, probably 5 pretty bad calls, and he saved us on all 5. And I've always thought that's the primary job of the quarterback is, save the bad calls. Don't make a bad play worse. If we're aggressive in play calling, we're going to help you make plays. Protect yourself and protect us from the bad calls, and he did a great job with that.
When you evaluate this performance, I know it's obviously so important to build on it. For such a long time, the guys had not experienced, the positive reaction that you would get from a successful outcome. But now that they've experienced that, like, do you keep the pedal? I know it feels good. How do you keep the pedal pressed and make sure, hey, guys, we got to keep building, keep grinding, because success does a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I'm just curious how you plan on building on it.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I've been preaching this forever. I think success is way harder to handle than failure for the modern day player. You start smelling your, you start, as Nick says, they start pouring perfume on you. It's rat poison, all these different terms. You start getting complacent. That's not we're 2-6, and I think we're very, very aware of that. I think the team came in and watched the film and flushed it really quick. I was very impressed with our walkthrough Monday night. I thought they had left all the other stuff behind, and they were very focused on a really good opponent who brings some real challenges too. They're not just good, they're complex. They're very, very complex. They're again, Jim's an NFL coach, so there's a lot of NFL, exo scheme stuff to this challenge. So they were immediately locked in on, holy smokes, they're a good team, they have a good record, and they got really complicated stuff. So let's lock in and get after it. I thought yesterday's practice, you didn't feel any of the I didn't feel any complacency. Now we're tired. I think emotionally, physically, we're tired, which is not uncommon this time of year early in the week. So we got to get them fresh by the end of the week. But yeah, Greg, I think it's a huge thing. I think how you handle success is way more challenging than how you handle adversity with the modern day athlete. And I was proud so far. I've been proud so far how our guys have handled it.
And Cam Shanks, 5 for 153. Can he continue doing these kind of things for you? 3 receiving touchdowns, over 30 yards a catch?
Yeah, this stuff we've seen from Cam. Cam dominated spring ball. Cam's been good this year. He's had some other explosive plays for us. This offense is best when the ball's spread around. It doesn't just target Amari or Cam. And then those two, I think, benefit from it spreading around because they're so good run after catch. They're so good with, the grass players. and I call them spacemen. You know, they're really good in space. You give them some space, you give them some grass, and they're going to make something good happen. Well, that grass happens when the ball's going to Corey Milliner and Malachi and the tight ends and the halfback, and you know, you're kind of dishing it around, and all of a sudden those guys get lost in the mix, and there's more grass in the field, and they can make plays, run after catch. And then the other thing about him is he is very fast. Like, he's a little guy, and typically we think only big guys are fast. Like, he's very fast. He's super explosive. You saw it on the double move touchdown that he runs. Like, he runs a terrible double move, which we're still on him about, but then he goes from 0 to 100 very quickly and puts the corner in a tough situation. So he's a player that we do try to target players, but we try to target them after the ball's been distributed other places so they have a better chance of making plays after the catch.
Final question, Coach, and it's more big picture. We've now seen SMU, who went from the American to the ACC and have had immediate success. I know that part of that is they've done a great job in the portal, and Rhett does a good job with the scheme, and they've got deep pockets, and they have excellent NIL support and all this stuff. But they've now gone to the ACC. They sit at number 13 in the country. They got a real shot to get to the ACC title game. If they win out, they're in. They might even be able to lose one and still get in. So is that an indicator of maybe the gap isn't as wide as we think between the American and the ACC, or the American and the Big 12? What does SMU's success tell you about the state of college football?
I think you know the answer. You just said it. Yes, I think you're 100% correct. The top of the AAC, the top, not us, the top, and the ACC and Big 12 are not that different. If you have the economic support. And Rhett does a great job. He does a great job with team building, too. Let's not forget, like, sometimes we just give the deep pockets all the credit. What he did last year, putting a team together that was paid for, he'd be the first to tell you that, you know, they went and bought a lot of really good players from different programs and brought them in, and he's able to mold them into a really good, tight, knitted team. I think speaks volumes to him and the staff. It's very much like the NFL. Like, okay, we're just going to go into free agency. We're going to get a new guard, a couple of receivers, a new secondary, some new defensive linemen. Oh, now I got to make them a team. You know, he did a good job with that. So I want to give him credit for that. But they have the economic support. I mean, they have a massive collective. They have unlimited operating budget. Like, that university is totally committed to getting in the big, you know, with the big boys. I think to leave the AAC and go to the ACC or Big 12, if you have that support, is not that different. Now, I don't think any of these teams can go to the Big 10 or the SEC. I don't think you can go to the SEC. Now, I've played Georgia and Arkansas back-to-back years, and I've said this. That gap is massive. Like, that is a massive gap. I don't think they have this success in the SEC. I think that best they're a 500 football team in the SEC.
Trent, we always appreciate it. Congrats on the win last week. Spinning forward quickly before we let you run, what do we have to accomplish against UConn to get another win this weekend?
Oh, they are just for fun. Watch their defensive scheme. Like, put on 2 quarters or something. Take 15 minutes and watch the defensive scheme. It's crazy. So we got to handle the scheme. We got to handle the movement. We got to handle tons of pressure packages. Limit negative plays. I think explosive plays will come because they at times get themselves out of position. We got to run the ball better, and then defensively, we got to stop outside zone. I mean, they're an NFL level outside zone team. The coordination of the offensive line, how they run it, is pretty fun to watch. Like, it looks like watching the Niners when they run outside zone. So we got to stuff the outside zone and, take away what they do best and make them play in an inside zone passing game and kind of dictate terms of that. And then I think we got to continue to play at a really high level on special teams. They do a very good job on special teams. We've had explosive plays out of special teams. We got to at least keep it neutral to on the plus side on special teams.
Always appreciate the time. Best of luck this week. Looking forward to it again next week, Coach.
Always fun, guys. Thank you.
Yep, there we go. Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, with us each and every week right there on the Buyers Right hotline. Good stuff there. And a strong offensive performance. See if they can follow it up this week against UConn. That game at 1:30 on Saturday. So we'll see if the UAB offense can stay hot coming up this weekend. It's going to be hot again today, 81 the high, I think. So if you've got that playground like we do in your backyard from Backyard Adventures, kids going to be able to get out there and play on it. If you want to know what they have, go check out their inventory at Cahaba Valley Road. They're already put together. Kids can jump, climb, swing, slide on all the different options, see what they have. Jeff and the guys will customize it for you. Best part, they're going to come to your house and put it together. Not a single tool needed by you, no assembly required. They set it all up. That was the key for me. Got it going. Kids love it. They're playing on it almost every day. And they got the basketball goals as well. I've got one. GMAC, you've got one, and it is great for the kids.
It's been a terrific investment in our family and making sure the kids get outside, making sure they're active. We've been out there as a family really all throughout the fall and the summer and have had just a terrific experience. And those guys, they just couldn't have made it any easier for us as we got it installed. We went the extra mile to make sure it was done right. And now, as a result, it looks great, it functions great, and it's been great for us as a family. Go check them out off Cahaba Valley Road, or you can go online at backyardalabama.com.
All right, when we come back, take a little bit further look at the first ever college football playoff 12-team rankings next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:40, Wednesday, November the 6th, Jocks 94.5. Bowling Green takes out Central Michigan last night, 23-13. They get to 5-4 on the season. Central Michigan goes to 3-6. They've won 6 of their last 7 at Central Michigan. The Falcons have. Connor Bazelak last night, 19 of 30, 207 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. The guy you need to know from Bowling Green, and will most likely not be playing there next year, Harold Fannin, tight end, 7 catches, 86 yards last night. He is one of how many players in college football that have over 1,000 yards receiving right now? Anyone?
3.
No. Gregory?
2.
You know the other?
Yes. It's not the kid at San Jose State. It's Tetro McMillan.
Correct.
Let's go.
Oh.
Get some. Get some.
T-Mac leads the nation. Harold Fannin second in the nation. Pretty good player. Also last night, Miami of Ohio, 5-4, knocks off Ball State, now 3-6, 27-21. Brett Gabbert, I feel like he has been playing college football for 14 years. 22. I'm sorry. He had, what did Gabbert do last night? Thought I had his numbers written down, but I just feel like he's been playing forever.
It feels like it.
Maybe it's because just his brother also, but
With a B name, yeah.
I don't know why. I called a game that he was the backup in, like he had not started yet. And
What, 2010?
I don't know. I can't remember when that was. 16-32, 219, 3 touchdowns, no picks last night. So I had a good day. Keon Mose, 22 for 105 on the ground last night as Miami of Ohio gets the win. Tonight, more Maction. Ohio 5-3. Probably going to get to 6-3. They got Kent State tonight.
No, Kent State's due.
Are they?
You probably thought Liberty was
0-8.
going to beat Kennesaw, too.
0-8. I would have put a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't even thought twice about it.
That's where they get you.
But I've seen Kent State in person, and that's the difference.
Oh, boy. Stop.
It's not ideal.
Don't do it.
Ohio, 19-point favorite. So you're calling for the upset. Mark that one down. Greg says Kent State straight up tonight.
Put that one on the record books.
6 o'clock on ESPN2, you'll get 4-4 Northern Illinois at 5-3 Western Michigan. We'll talk a little bit more next hour about the committee, the rankings. I will say before we go to break, Greg, I kind of refreshed my memory on the actual committee, and this may be one of the most football-savvy committees we've had. Chris Alt, Jim Grobe, Randall McDaniel, Gary Pinkel, Mike Riley, Will Shields, all a part of this committee. So guys that have coached and played at a very high level that know ball, a part of this committee. So it may be one of the furthest up there that we've had since we've been doing this. But we'll talk more about it next hour. When we come back, we'll give you our top 3, see if it makes any sense today. Before we get to that, G-Mac, tell our listeners about B-Dry.
B-Dry has been serving Alabama and customers in this community for 60 years. That's right, 60 years. They're the largest waterproofing company in the country. And they're the only company in the country that can stop all 5 ways that water can enter your foundation. That's because B-Dry has a solution that is time-tested and continues to get great results. And just for extra peace of mind, they're going to back things up with the life of the structure warranty, which gives me, water's a tricky thing now. Knowing that they will come out and take care of it without a question asked whatsoever is something that gives me a lot of faith when knowing that my waterproofing and foundation repair is going to be in the hands of B-Dry. You get 12 months interest-free and no payments. That's right, 12 months interest-free, no payments, not for a calendar year, so you get the job finished with the strongest warranty, the job done right, and the best price. Call 942-1976 or visit bdryalabama.com.
Top 3 next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll move on to our top three this segment, and then next hour move back into the college football playoff rankings. 800-239-9569. You want to get in, discuss those. Text the show, 205-834-9450. Also, you can tweet in at Mac and Cube. Let us know what you like, didn't like, what needs to change, if there's something that makes you nervous about the first ever 12-team college football playoff rankings. We'll have some historical numbers on that next hour as well. Jake Thompson, 8:30, talking Ole Miss. Pete Nakos talking coaching hot seats and the playoff rankings at 9. But before we move to that top three, GMAC, if you're looking to move out of your home into a new home, who do you call?
That'd be our friends at Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and moved, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchase need to get to your home, so call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. It's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
Before we get to your top three, Damien, and we're going to go there in just a second, I found myself last night. I mean, listen, we're not going to spend time talking about it or get into it, but we all watched a little and paid attention.
Yeah.
So what was going to happen?
Yeah.
Greg, did you at least take a look at some point?
At the election results?
Yeah.
Yes.
Damien?
Obviously.
Yeah.
I live in this country.
I found myself often last night wishing that, similar to an ESPN app, we had an election app where I could just go see who was in the lead. Like, I need an election box score where I can literally just go look at it and someone tells me what the score is right that second. Because you could put it on 3 different channels.
And you saw 85 different numbers, didn't you?
Not even close.
Yeah.
Like, one was 211 to 178 and the other was 278 to 80. And I'm just, I don't know what's happening.
Right.
Can I just get a box score right now of where this thing is? And I don't need to know about the blue wall. I don't need to know about, like, swing states. Like, tell me what the score is right now.
Exactly.
That's all I need.
Allstate has the
get it.
predictor for college football. We talked about Allstate earlier. The sponsorship is right there.
I just need a box score. Like, tell me what inning we're in, or tell me how much time is left and what the score is right this second. That's all I needed. And you can't get it, which I guess is why we get sucked in for 11 hours.
How
Nonetheless.
far did you make it last night?
I went to bed right after 12. That was the
You
first
made it
time.
longer than I
That was the
did.
first time somebody definitively said, "I think this is what it's going to be." And I was like, "Okay, well, I feel like I know."
Right.
Glad
I went
did
to
that.
bed. I went to bed at 11:30 Central Time, so 12:30 Eastern, fully anticipating. All right, well, there'll be no conclusion. You know, we'll have recounts all over the place, and I'll wake up and there'll be no resolution whatsoever. Like, didn't think I'd miss anything, and sure enough, woke up not just missing anything. But missing everything. I missed everything last night. I had no idea. You want to talk about just not being able to read the room or read what was going to happen? It was crazy.
You missed everything, and at the same time, you missed nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's well said.
All right, Damien. top three today.
They really make you feel like when I was on the treadmill this morning working out and watching it, it made me feel like I missed literally everything that has ever happened in the history of America. It's like I felt such FOMO this morning, not really knowing like what the heck happened, feeling out of the loop.
Absolutely. All right, Damien, top 3 today. What do you got?
Well, you know, on November 6th, we celebrate every single year National Nacho Day.
Who didn't know that?
I didn't. Not until today.
Makes sense in November, cold month, to have nachos. All right.
It's
Best
also-
nacho ever. Libre?
Supreme.
That's good. That's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, man. It's National Saxophone Day as well. Or, John, are you the only one? Are you the only
Fun
one that
fact:
can
I
play-
played saxophone in 6th grade. Get that all over you.
That is.
Write that down for an
Surprising.
off-season
Yeah.
entire show.
Would you
time.
be able to pick it back up right now and play?
Yeah, I think I could probably do a couple scales. I actually made it to first chair. Not sure how. I really wasn't very good, but I tested well, and everyone else freaked out. So when you had to do like a couple scales, yeah, I nailed the scales, got first chair, and I really was terrible.
All right, so speaking of election discussion and not knowing what people are talking about, what is first chair?
In band, you literally get ranked. Like your first chair, saxophone in the band. Second chair, saxophone. Like based on your performance, you go first, second, third, fourth, fifth. It's just like There's this thing in football, or at least there used to be this thing in football called the depth chart, where you have like first chair, left tackle.
Were you an or?
No oars.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, there's no or in band. Nope.
We weren't worried about
You literally
people's
can't
feelings.
share the chair. It's only one of you can fit in it.
Yeah, nobody cared what.
No, I'm not a loser.
Oh,
Excuse me.
It's a loser instrument.
Why?
Excuse me. Why? It's the best band instrument outside of trumpet, arguably.
Why is it? Okay, first
Yes.
off, you can't play it in the rain. It's a woodwind. And if it's
You
so
could.
good, why does Ohio State not have it in their band?
Why do you?
I didn't know it wasn't.
Whoa. Better question. Why do you know that?
Because I've been there. I seen it.
So you were looking through the band, going, hold on a second, now wait.
They don't have any woodwind.
Where's the saxophone?
They don't have any whatsoever because they're all about sound and
I mean,
the
that's
level
literally
of
like
volume.
me being at the game, going, they got no 70 numbers on this team.
I'm so confused.
Them not having woodwinds is basically like a team not having a long snapper.
What else does that consist of? Recorder.
Yeah, obviously march and recorder. Those are out there dominating.
By the way, my mother's pain in elementary school is being regurgitated now as my child has learned to play hot cross buns on her recorder, and we have to listen to that every day.
Oh, that is.
I'm like, man, now I know what I put them through. Now I know, and I bet I could pick that thing up and play it right this second. No other songs, but hot cross buns. I could
Obviously,
knock
right,
that out
yeah,
right this
yeah.
second. Yeah. Okay, what else is a woodwind? I
There's-
literally don't know
I have
this.
no
There's,
idea.
there's an oboe.
Seriously? Anything that
no
has a
idea.
reed.
Right. Yeah.
A what? Like
A
zone
reed.
reed? Or like RPO?
You really have never played an instrument of any sort?
I just told you the one I
no,
played, and it's called the
the
recorder,
recorder.
and I could smash hot cross buns. Still.
Yeah, I get that. I understand the recorder, but they never
they
forced.
they
like,
put me on the triangle in music class over there in
basically
the corner.
everybody
that's
in
first year
Texas.
triangle.
You had
don't know
to be
about
in the
that.
band in Texas in 6th grade.
We had
basically.
oars.
Like it was literally like a rule. It was either you did band or drama, and everyone did band. For
See,
the
that's
most part.
Why would you do
ours.
drama?
Ours was you had to do. If you did choir, you didn't have to do one of the other electives. I did industrial arts in middle
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
because there ain't no way in hell I was going to wear white pants with a navy blue. What's it called? Turtleneck in red suspenders.
Yeah.
Your boy coming in the next show did though.
Of course he did.
Ain't no way I was putting that
He
on.
wore leather chaps on stage willingly.
Fair. Yeah, I would. And everybody's excuse was, "Oh, the hot girls are in choir." I was like, they also walk around school.
Yeah.
Like I just catch him.
They all have lockers. I mean, what? What? I'm good. I'm gonna go make a baseball bat today.
Could you do that? Now?
Yeah.
You can make a bat?
I think so.
Oh man. Greg, is there any other instrument that you could play?
No, I could probably get by on the clarinet. I mean, I can't imagine
What?
it's that different.
This
I can't
is-
imagine it's that different from saxophone.
Well, if you can play the saxophone, you can play the flute. Those two, the fingering's the same.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no
How?
reed.
One
It's-
is like
true
a little
different,
thing
right?
that you hold to the side, and the other one's like this giant deal in front of
Again,
you.
the way the instrument's made up, the way you finger the instrument, it's the same.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You heard what I said.
Yeah.
If y'all going to go down that path, sickos,
yeah.
You said.
I'm using the
So
technical
basically, I can play jazz flute for you.
Okay, Ron.
Oh boy.
might be the best.
That was your best top three of
Might
the
have
year,
been, yes,
right there.
yes.
By far.
I don't know if we ever got a top
We
three
did.
out of
We
it.
did.
Did we ever
Exactly.
get?
Shout out to National Saxophone Day.
Hey,
That's wild. Oh my gosh.
I think that's the first instrument day we've had.
Shout out to the sax.
All right, college football rankings, maybe even top three again when we come back. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. They say you learn something new every day. Would not have guessed that our own Greg McElroy, a saxophonist. Who would we say?
Saxophone I.
Who is the greatest saxophoner of all time?
Yanni?
Kenny G?
Oh, yeah, Kenny G. Yeah.
That was a saxophone? I don't know.
Kenny G, pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah,
He'd be up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hang on.
Are you looking up
Could
best
Quincy Jones play the
saxophone?
saxophone?
I mean, yeah, obviously,
Yeah,
naturally,
I
yeah.
was
I
like,
think
Quincy
he
Jones.
could do everything.
I think that's that's probably the thing.
Charlie Parker is probably the best saxophonist of all time.
Isn't that Baylor's quarterback a couple years ago?
That's
Same thing.
He was also, I
Devil
think,
went
4
down
or
to Georgia
5
guy?
other. I think Charlie Brewer was also on 4 or 5 other teams.
That is
Yeah.
true. Shout out to the transfer portal.
What was your top 3?
It was going to be top 3 sleeper teams outside the top 12.
Perfect. Saxophone right there. Made exactly what we were going for.
I was just celebrating the
Sure.
day and then find out Greg's musically inclined.
When you
I
saw
don't know
the
if I'm musically inclined, but I played in 6th grade because I had to. It was either that or be in choir. In drama. In drama, not
What's
choir.
wrong with drama? You could have been.
It's lame.
You and Drake could be
other
on
than that-
Degrassi.
Degrassi.
if I could have gone
Yeah, they
back,
say
I
it
think
right.
I would. I could. We had theater when I was in high school, and I wanted to do it, but all of the stuff conflicted with football, so you couldn't do it. You couldn't commit to it because you had to be there after school for practice and stuff. But I wanted to do it. I would have done that.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, I would have done anything over choir, any of it. Art, industrial arts,
They'd have any like Wu-Tang
psychology.
They'd have any Wu-Tang for you in choir?
No, I don't think so. No, but I would have crushed that.
Yeah.
I told you, I did perform Cypress Hill
Hill.
at a pep rally.
Of course.
Smashed it. 9th grade.
For real?
Which
Yes.
song?
What song do you think?
I just want to be sure.
It was Insane in the Membrane, but we had to change the
Oh,
lyrics.
obviously,
Understandable.
right. Yeah.
We had to turn the lyrics into the principle.
Oh.
Our immediate thought was, we could just still go up there and say whatever we want.
Oh, correct. Yes.
There's a lot of trust in that one. A lot of trust. But we crushed it. Yeah. I don't think Landrum was singing Cypress Hill on his in his white pants and suspenders.
That seems more Kenny G than Cypress Hill.
Faith Hill, not Cypress Hill.
I think it's a little before her time, but before she was doing those things. But yes, probably some Celine Dion,
Hey,
if that floats your boat.
it does.
When you
Speak
look
for
at these
yourself.
rankings, G-Mac, like Damian just asked, is there a team, what'd you say, outside the top 12?
Yeah.
Is there a team outside the top 12 that you feel, I would have a bunch that I feel confident can still get into the college football playoff.
Oh gosh, there's a whole bunch. I mean, I think A&M's in control of their own destiny. I think LSU's in control of their own destiny.
Okay, but hold on. But do you feel good about where they are and what they have left of actually getting in?
No. I'll tell you who I do feel pretty good about, though, is Ole Miss. Like, I think Ole Miss can win this weekend. I'm calling the game, so I'm not necessarily predicting an upset by any stretch, but I think they can win this weekend with how they've rushed the passer and flustered quarterbacks and how they can alter the game so that they can win on the perimeter. And I think they're going to force Georgia to tackle. Like, I think they can win. Now, will they have to play amazing? Probably the best game of the Lane Kiffin era? Yes. But I think it's not out of the realm of possibility. So I think Ole Miss, to me, right now is the most underrated team based on talent and ceiling.
Like capability. Yeah, like what they're
yes.
capable of doing to you. I would agree with that. Yeah.
Like any team basically 16 through 25 right now, you tell me, hey, you got to go beat Texas. I can have anyone ranked outside the top 12. I'm taking Ole Miss.
If I can call the plays, I might take LSU. But
Were you calling the plays on defense or offense?
offense, I trust Blake. But if I can call the plays on offense, I might take LSU there.
Why are you down on Joe Sloan?
Well, I just prefer a run play every at least 7 series
Wow.
to be called. But, is what it is. Whatever
You're saying
whatever floats your boat.
26% of their yardage total being on the ground is not enough?
It doesn't feel like true balance, but hey, people view things through different lenses. Mine is
Wow.
one that they do not attempt to run the football. So therefore, I would probably go with Ole Miss, a team that's not running it really well, but at least does try to run it still.
Yeah.
But we know those offensive lines are totally different as well. So probably why I would lean LSU if I had control of that. If you go further down, is there one that's still, like after Ole Miss, you get to 17, Iowa State, Pitt, K-State, Colorado, Washington State, Louisville, Clemson, Mizzou, Army.
I don't want to play Louisville.
No, but I don't feel great about them actually getting in. We talked about Washington State a little bit, I think, Tuesday. in just that I think people are kind of forgetting that they're a one-loss team. That one loss came on the blue turf to a team that's ranked pretty high. Now, what do you have ahead of you? I don't know if Utah State's going to move the meter or New Mexico or Oregon State or Wyoming, but there's a good chance they're finishing with one loss. And so because of the setup, I might say that I feel pretty good about their chances to get in, but that has a lot less to do with who they are, Greg, and just them doing it against anybody as opposed to just kind of what their map looks like right now.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at just kind of where things are in the bottom half of the rankings, like teams with legitimate upside, let's just go through it. Like Army, I don't know why Army's ranked. Like it makes no sense to me. I know they're undefeated. I get that. But, like, come on, man. For real. Missouri, why are they ranked? Because they have a win against Vanderbilt. And that's pretty much it. Vandy, should they be ranked? Probably. I think I would take Vandy over Army. I can promise you that. I also think, look at Clemson. Why is Clemson ranked? Outside of having won 2 championships in the last decade, there's no reason why Clemson should be ranked in the top 25. None. Not one. The 2 teams with the pulse they've played, they've gotten beat convincingly in Georgia and Louisville. I think Louisville's really good, by the way. So, big believer there. I don't really know what to make of the Big 12.
Do they have a win against a team over 500?
Who?
Clemson. I don't think they do.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, NC State. They're 5-4.
Gotcha. That's
Yeah.
the one. Okay.
Yep. You love NC State, too. You've loved them for a while.
You know, listen, this wouldn't be the first time me having NC State in the playoff went south. So,
You are the kiss of death for NC State. If I'm NC State, I'm paying close attention to Cole Cubelic's preseason prognostications because every time he
pretty
likes
much
us,
guarantee it won't
we
happen
are
again.
going to let him down. Hey guys, Cole likes us this year. Let's lay eggs
trouble.
in the first 6 games.
Fool me
Perfect.
once, fool me twice. Okay.
yeah, I'm staying away
And
from
then we'll
that
turn
one.
it on, and then we'll turn it on late, and we'll finish it like a surprising 8-4. And no one was paying attention to the last 6 wins that we had. That's always the way it'll go. But I don't really know what to make of. I really don't know what to make of the Big 12 contingent. That's what I'm struggling most with. 17, 19, and 20. Iowa State, Kansas State, and Colorado. I don't know what to make of them. I don't know if they're any good. I don't know if they're bad. I kind of like Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech has been dealt some tough hands this year. They lose their quarterback, and as a result, lose badly to Baylor. They had a really bad game against Washington State, but they had no business losing to TCU, and then they beat Iowa State at Iowa State last week. So I don't really know what to make of the Big 12. That's the toughest league right now for me to kind of pigeonhole.
Yeah, I would say after Ole Miss, there's not a team I feel great about. That I would say, based on their path.
What about
based on
Louisville?
what they have. Already at 6-3 though, but yeah, I mean, I guess could they find a way to go win the conference? Possibly. You have the opportunity to play Pitt and knock them down another notch. You'll get a win against an SEC opponent, which will help perception, even though Kentucky's not very good this year. Yeah, they got to win the conference to do it, and I don't feel really good about that. I mean, you and I have talked about it. Like, I think Tyler Shuck has more arm talent than maybe anybody in college football right now. Like, just the arm angles, the velocity he can put on the ball, throwing it down the field. It's not always accurate, but, like, he can do a lot of things. And they've got skill. They've got real skill. But I just don't know if I trust them. They're inconsistent. And so to say that I think that they're going to be able to do it the rest of the way through and get in, feasible, yes. Confident, not really. No, I can't.
Hardly.
So I think Ole Miss is kind of where you draw that line of, all right, now let's talk about the teams ahead of them. SMU we can talk about. Like you mentioned A&M, with the injuries now at running back and maybe a little bit of eyes being opened on what the offense can and cannot do, I just feel like they have to get into a very specific style football game to be successful. Now, can they do that against Auburn? Probably. I don't know if they're going to be able to just pound the ball against Auburn. But if that game goes that way, that's bad for Auburn because they haven't won any games that have gone that way this year. And then Texas is going to be just a whole new ball game. So can they finish strong? I think so. But I just think that there are going to be a lot of teams that have a similar or better record that they're probably in the same category. So I mean, outside of that defensive line, I struggle to find other areas that they can just dominate you. But they can there, for sure. And we thought the run game was heading in that direction, but now I think people realize, all right, just keep them in the pocket. Let's see what they can do picking us apart, and they probably can't win that way.
I just wonder a little bit with A&M if their defense can be so problematic that they can still cause a lot of problems. And we saw, and let's not forget, what was Texas's undoing against Georgia? It wasn't their defense. Their defense played well against Georgia, but their offensive line couldn't block a soul. And if you couldn't block Georgia, I'm not super confident you're going to be able to block A&M. So that game might be 3-2, but in a game in which it's a pitcher's duel, I think A&M's got a fighting chance. If you can defend like that, I think A&M will always have a chance. I'm not going to feel great about picking them in any of the games, even on the road at Auburn.
Well, the difference with the Georgia game was, and we talked about this on Read and React, and you and I have talked about it, Georgia tackled one-on-one in the open field. And when you play Texas, and you're going to get those detachments, and you're going to get those quick throws, receivers coming into the backfield and motioning out of the backfield, backs motioning out of the backfield, their little traveler package where they have, the tight end looks like a lead blocker. They hit the back out of the backfield, but that read starts down the field with the receivers, and you can just kind of go down the list, and you can transition into being a blocker. All that quick game stuff, you better be able to tackle in the open field. And I'm not as confident with A&M, specifically after what I saw Saturday night, that tackling is going to be one of their strengths. Can they disrupt up front? Yes, for sure. But open field tackling, I don't know if I look at that and just say, yeah, that team's really good at that. Because Georgia is. Georgia will get you on the ground. We know that. And maybe second level still a little bit better than third level, but they can get you on the ground. And that's where I think the A&M part of that might be a little different.
I just think A&M is one of those teams that I think A&M's one of those teams that is going to have to win a very specific way. A&M is more like Iowa than you want to realize. Like, I think Iowa can beat most teams in college football. Not all. They can't beat Georgia. They can't beat Ohio State. I don't even know if they can beat Miami. But I do think A&M is one of those teams that if a game goes a certain way and they can force you into a couple turnovers and then they get a lead early and they can pin their ears back and start rushing the passer and they can grind on you along the offensive line. Because I do think their offensive line is solid. I don't think it's elite. I think it's solid. They're a team that I wouldn't really want to mess with. A&M or LSU on a neutral field. I know A&M ultimately won that game. But I hope that we are beyond evaluating them in that light. Would you rather have the one-dimensional nature of LSU or the front seven that can take over the game? I think I'm not going to say casuals because I think it is kind of, I'm sure there's football people that will be on that side. I think some people are kind of enamored with the glitz and glam nature of LSU, but the physical take over the game, win it in the trenches nature of A&M, I think is really difficult for teams to match up with. So I don't know. I kind of am taught, if you had to have A&M and go make the playoff and make a run, would you want them or would you want LSU to go make a run?
It's tough.
I really don't know.
It's really tough right now because I think A&M, I'm not going to put this on you guys. You guys can have your own evaluation. My evaluation is pretty easy with LSU. The quarterback's going to throw the ball to you. Are you going to catch it? If you catch it, you're probably going to win the game. I hate to sound that simplistic and elementary, but I really do believe that that's a big majority of it. A&M has things that can speed that up and raise the percentages of that happening. We know that. Even against a good offensive line, they're going to be a problem. They can do that. The other part of the problem when you flip it around is when you take Swinson and Weeks and some of the athleticism and ball hawk skills they have in the front seven, I think they neutralize your quarterback run going into a game, having a plan for it and knowing you're going to get it. Now, this whole they didn't adjust, y'all can stop saying that. Stop saying LSU didn't adjust to it, because if you watch how they played it with a non-mobile quarterback early and a mobile quarterback late, they did adjust to it. They just did a poor job adjusting to it and playing it the way they needed to. But you devise a plan for that now, specifically with a guy that is not extremely accurate and consistent down the field. I think they have enough up front to be problematic for that group. So, I don't know. Toss up?
I really don't know.
I think LSU can force them into turnovers. I think LSU can. I mean, South Carolina, they're not. A&M's not necessarily South Carolina, but they got them to get. They put the ball on the ground. I mean, they got them to. Ball security was an issue with them, so I think A&M could do, or LSU could do very similar things. Not to the extent, but they have guys who could. I mean, you put 4 on the edge, he's going to be a problem. You let 40 run wild, he's going to find the ball, and it's going to be a problem. So, I mean,
and their secondary has gotten better too. Like, I think LSU is. I think their best football is in front of them, and I think it's going to be a tough challenge this week. I don't know. I think you look at. I don't know. I think you look at LSU, and I get the sense that LSU is on the verge of putting it all together. Now, does it come this week? I don't know. Does it come in 3 weeks? Potentially. But they're a team that I would not want to see in the playoff. You know what I mean? And I can tell you this, they're not a team I want to see next year. Now, they're going to have to replace a couple key pieces along the offensive line. That'll be a hard thing to replace. But I think this was kind of a transition year for Brian Kelly. If you ask him gun to head, hey, what do you make of your team this year? I think he'd tell you this is a bit of a transition year with our lack of depth on defense, and they might be a little ahead of schedule. But, man, it looks like things are kind of heading in the right direction.
This is why it was such a great conversation when we did this either Friday, Monday. I can't remember when we had this conversation about, is it more valuable right now to know what you are or what you're not? And I feel like LSU does not know what they're not. I think they know what they are, and they lean so far into that they forget what they're not, and that catches up with them. And I feel like I just mentally ran a lot of people in circles right there, and I'm sorry for that. But I feel like we have a lot of teams in college football right now that think they know what they are, but do not know what they're not. And it is more valuable at this point in the season to know what you're not, because you can coach around that and you can aid that. You can't go out there and keep pretending to be things that you're not. So knowing what you are is great, but you got to know what you can't do. And there are teams that are still trying to do things they can't do, and it's getting them in trouble. And LSU, their inability to even try to run the ball is, I think, a part of that. And you take Missouri on defense, how they have to have a stunt on every play. They have to call movement on every play. Well, you're not good enough everywhere else to cover that up. You were last year to do that. You had enough disruptors and problem causers up front to do that. You can't be that. So stop being that right now, because you can't do that. It's kind of like Alabama. I think Alabama has a better understanding of what they're not, but they're trying to get to it, and that'll pay off more in the end. I think they want to be a power run football team. They just don't necessarily know if they're 100% there yet, but they're going to keep working towards it. But they also don't go out there and try to throw the ball 52 times a game, trying to be something that they know they're not. Like, they know they can't be that group. They got good receivers, pretty good offensive line, talented quarterback, but do they go out there and try to throw the ball 48 times a game? They know they can't be that, so they don't go try to be that. And I just think there's a lot of teams that we've been talking about. Like, I think this is where it's valuable with Tennessee right now. I think Josh knows I have a young quarterback. He's not always going to see it well. So guess what we're not going to be? An air raid team who throws it 57 times a game. Why? We can run it. Our offensive line's pretty physical, and our defense is probably not giving up 38 a game. So we'll be okay. They understand what they are, and they're trying to win games that way while improving the things that they're not. So I think it's more valuable right now, Greg, to know what you're not and either work around it or work harder to improve that or find ways to aid that being a flaw than just going out there and saying, well, we know we're this, so we're just going to keep doing that. Like, that right there is the old Big 12 teams. That's the Oklahoma States and the old Texas Techs, and like, well, we can do this, but we don't really need to do anything else because we're so good at that. Well, no, because you're going to get into a style fight down the road that you're not going to be able to manage. So that's kind of how I look at some of these teams right now. And I think A&M has a better grasp of what they're not than LSU does. And that's why I might lean A&M in that game. Because I could see Elko saying, hey, we're going to hand the ball off 60 times. I don't really care where it goes or how we do it. But we know we're going to get to him, and we know he's going to throw us the ball. So maybe if we flip the field, kick a couple field goals, I don't care if we win this thing 10-3. Like, we'll be good. But that's who we are. It's like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt knows exactly who they are. And it's like these Auburn fans that keep talking about, well, we were in the game and the defense played so well and we were so close. No, you weren't close, because that's the exact style fight that they wanted. And here's what happens when that happens. When you go into a fight and it goes exactly the way you want it to go, the further it goes, your confidence skyrockets. And your belief that you're going to win it goes up and up and up and up and up. It doesn't matter if you're down 7 or up 40. Your confidence continues to go up. What do you think happened to Auburn's confidence the closer that clock got to being 0 in the fourth quarter and the game was tied or they were down 3? I bet it was going down. I bet people were looking left and right. I bet in the back of their minds, people were saying, who's going to F this one up? I bet it was, and that's not their fault. I'm not saying it's an individual's fault. I'm not saying that people are weak-minded. I'm not saying they're bad kids. But it has happened over and over again. So human nature makes you believe that. Vanderbilt wanted that game to be 10-10 in the fourth. I guarantee you all week Clark Lee said, give me a tie game with 8 minutes in the fourth, and by God, we got them.
We'll take it.
Play the Drewski clip. Got them. We got them. They didn't want to be up. Yeah, they would have loved to, but they didn't need to be up by 40 with 5 minutes left. I guarantee you Clark Lee said, give me a one-score game with half a quarter left to play, and boys, we got them. But you know why? Because y'all have done that, and you've been there, and you've lived that life, and you know how to win that game. They don't. Guarantee you he told them that all week, and that's how it went. So we'll continue talking about that on the other side. Quickly tell you about our friends at Wayne's. Yes, they can make your yard beautiful, and you probably need to pay attention to that now for next spring. Mosquitoes, hell, you might need help with that still because it's 80 degrees today. They might still be floating around. But the key here is wildlife prevention. And if you get those critters in your home, Greg, Wayne's is going to be able to get them out and then keep them out.
Yeah, Wayne's is great. They've been around our community for a while. I've talked friends into it, and they've had a great experience. Basically, our whole street is all done. We got the Wayne's out in front in all of our yards, and they look great, and it's been great because they have the Mosquito Plus, so we can all be out and have no problems whatsoever. And we know the kids can play out in front with the environment, with the Envirolawn, the EnviroPest, the Mosquito Plus. The wildlife removal now is something, though, that I think has been great addition to Wayne's arsenal of services they can provide around your house. Call them today, 866-WAYNES-1. That's 866-WAYNES-1. Or you can visit callwaynes.com. That's callwaynes.com, and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
All right, when we come back, more on last night's college football playoff rankings. One thing we haven't talked about, where the Crimson Tide sit. Is it a good spot? You nervous? Right there at 11, how do we feel about the path ahead for Alabama as the college football playoff is concerned? We'll discuss that next on Mac and Cube in the morning. What notes is he doing the best job of hitting there, Greg?
It's either A through G. I'm not 100% sure.
Wow,
Definitely
It's
G.
one of those.
Just
7.
leaving D out there. Wow.
I think that's a D sharp.
I'll take you to the Twitter feed quickly at Mac and Cube if you want to be a part of the show. 800-239-9569. The Unhipster tweets in, Greg had a Kenny G poster right next to his Cowboys poster in his room, didn't he?
Hey, you can play the saxophone in 6th grade and not be a saxophone enthusiast. I'm not like some deep-rooted saxophone guy.
You were first
All
chair,
right.
dog. You were first chair.
Yeah, and
They don't
honestly,
give those
when
out lightly,
man.
the way I see it, I think that my when we were auditioning for chairs, I think my solo sounded a bit like that Whitney Houston solo a second ago. I think it sounded a bit like that. I don't remember exactly how it sounded, but if I were to recall just off the top of my head, it was about like that. Just a shred sesh.
So you did a
Shred.
you did a sax solo?
Like you're supposed to. That's how.
No,
that's
dude.
how they measure your aptitude.
Oh, I
Yes.
thought he was saying like
Yes.
halftime or something. He actually went out there by himself and performed.
I mean,
I was
you
in
might have.
6th grade. We didn't even. This was before we were. I wasn't even in middle school yet.
I know
This was like
you
elementary
couldn't play middle school
intermediates.
football, so you went and performed at the middle school football game. I don't know, basketball game.
I was a starting quarterback. I was a starting quarterback of the 1-7 Carroll Middle School Dragons. Okay.
Dang, dog.
I mean, that's
I had to rotate.
That's
I had
what
to rotate
motivated
with a
him.
guy named.
That was his
I had to
MJ looking
rotate
at the
with a guy
iPad
named
moment
Chad
right there.
Joyce. I had to rotate with a guy named Chad Joyce, who was terrible.
2 quarterback system?
But
Never works.
2 quarterback system
Is
never
he in the
works.
Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Who was the
What's
runner?
Chad Joyce doing now?
Who was the runner?
Does he have the power clean record?
Actually, my the running back was Patrick Benoit, who played linebacker and was all SEC at Vanderbilt.
Let's go.
Okay.
Okay, all right. There. So there's talent there.
Double SEC backfield. I don't know what Chad's doing now. Get some, Chad.
Probably playing the sax somewhere.
Probably is.
Who would have thought Greg was
Also-
middle
I think Chad
school
played-
musical?
I think Chad played the trombone.
Also, Dr. Rick tweets in, the election box score is the most brilliant idea you've ever had. Not saying something, Rick, because I've had a lot of brilliant ideas.
yeah.
None have ever come to fruition, but the ideas
Under.
themselves have been brilliant. And Tripp tweets in, Greg was spot on in his criticism of the ranking specific to BYU last night. This committee has a data blind spot. They scrub so many numbers and then miss the obvious. BYU has 2 ranked wins. Indiana has 0.
Correct.
It's hard to argue against that. And that's one of the things
But
when we said that
why are we-
BYU was going to be looked past, we said, look at the schedule. No one's talking about their wins.
That's the problem. And I don't mind them being behind Indiana. I can live with them being behind Indiana. You know why? Because Indiana has stomped a mud hole in everyone they've played. So if you look at Indiana's execution and how they really no game has been in doubt at any point. The one time that they trailed in the whole season, they responded with 47 consecutive points scored. I'd say that's a pretty good response. So I'm okay, but guess what? Indiana, in that circumstance, should be 5. BYU should be in front of Texas. BYU should be in front of Penn State. They have a better win than both. Texas and Penn State have yet to beat a team that's ranked in the top 25. BYU's beaten 2 ranked in the top 19, including 1 that is ranked in the top 13 that has 1 loss. And as far as efficiency metrics, they're good across the board. It's just, I think BYU is painfully underrated, and it is what it is. But if you're telling me there's no brand bias that is associated with BYU's evaluation, I think it's impossible not to acknowledge that that's a possibility, because they're not. The resumes between them, Texas and Penn State, it's really not comparable.
It's one thing, I'm going to give you a compliment here, and I hate doing that on this show. It's one thing that I have heard you do multiple years, and you do a very good job of it, and that is siphoning between how you think the committee sees one thing in one team, but does not apply that to other teams. I heard you do it last year. I've heard you do it in years before now, where I think a lot of us kind of just look at all the teams and where they are, and we may want one team ahead. But what you just did there with Indiana, I've heard you do that multiple years now, to say, Okay, that's fine if you want them there, but this is most likely what you used to get them there. And if that's the case, you did not use that at 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever else. And then that's where your main frustration comes from.
And that's always been my frustration. It's like, and you kind of group teams in bunches, right? Like you can group teams in bunches, and I can live with that. Like if you want to put Indiana in the top 5, I'm good with that. No problem whatsoever. As long as we are acknowledging that there are other teams that have yet to have disappointment, might not have played a good schedule, but they've pounded everybody they've played. So we need to kind of value other teams there, and that to me is what's the inconsistencies. And last year was the most egregious example. It's like, well, this team's number 1 based on eye test. Well, this team's number 2 based on record. This team's number 3 based on strength of schedule. This team's number 4 based on game control. This team's number 5 based on who they beat. It's like it just drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's. I said we would talk Alabama this segment. We're going to do that on the other side when we come back because I want to get your thoughts on where they are and why you think they are where they are, and if we're okay with that, and if that means that they got a good shot to get in, or should people be nervous about maybe Alabama actually getting into the college football playoff? Before we do that, I'll tell you about Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group. You're looking to get into a new home? Call 205-542-1996 or just Google Gusty Goulas Group. You'll see over 830 5-star Google reviews. Now, most agents, they start marketing after you list with them, not Gusty. He's brokered by eXp Realty. He's got buyers lined up as soon as he lists a home, and you can trust his aggressive and proven selling system. Serve more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. So go to GustyGoulasGroup.com today or call 205-542-1996 and start packing. We will talk Alabama and their spot in the initial college football playoff rankings. There's one team that has been in the college football rankings as many times as the Crimson Tide. I'll tell you who that is next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in at 8:37 a.m. Wednesday, November 6th on Jocks 94.5. Going to go right to the Buyers Right hotline now. Talk a little bit of Ole Miss with Jake Thompson. On 3 covers Ole Miss. And Jake, before we get to the matchup this weekend or the health of this football team, Ole Miss comes in at 16 in the initial college football playoff rankings. What's the vibe, the thought process, the feel there inside that facility about where Ole Miss showed up in the first round of these rankings?
You know, they probably thought they might be a little higher. I did too, not super higher. I thought maybe they'd split the difference between the coaches poll and the AP poll, which was 12 and 16. I thought maybe 14 or somewhere in there, but they the committee stuck really, really close to the AP rankings this week. And obviously the message is simple. That they got to win out, especially Saturday, or none of this matters last night. And they've been in playoff mode already with Oklahoma and Arkansas, and they've got to kind of keep that mindset. So I think that Kiffin really doesn't talk about it too much, but he's acknowledged it more, and especially this week, than he has in terms of the ranking and the big picture stuff. And I think that's because everybody knew they went all in. I mean, this was what they were building this team for. They focused solely on 2024, and then they stubbed their toe against Kentucky and LSU, and they find themselves kind of, I guess, maybe that third team out, if you go by kind of how they had that graphic on ESPN last night.
How would you assess just kind of where things are right now and what progress has been made with them on both sides of the ball? Because it feels like a team that been a little bit unpredictable, but here we are now heading into November, and I feel like their best football is sitting right in front of them.
Yeah, no, I think these last 6 quarters is the Ole Miss that we expected to see in SEC play. They beat up on their non-conference teams. That was what it was. But once Kentucky got here, it just felt like the Ole Miss offense just kind of dissipated against, Kentucky's got good defense, but you felt like the offense can manage that and play a little bit better than they did, and they just look sluggish. They even looked sluggish at South Carolina. I mean, they controlled it, but that was really more of the defense controlling it, and that says more about where the defense has been. But offensively, that second half against Oklahoma and then all last week at Arkansas, minus the fourth quarter when they kind of put their backups in to rest some guys, that looked like the complete Ole Miss team that was supposed to contend for this playoff race, be a top 10 or higher team. And I think they are clicking right now, even when they've got 2 of their guys on offense out, and Trey Harris and Caden Prescorn. Without them, that was the best the offense looked. So you feel like if you can plug them in, you can get that complete team. And, like I said, that they're peaking right when they need to, because they've managed to put themselves where they expected to be entering Georgia week, which is right back in the mix. But now they've just lost that margin of error.
Well, it may have helped with depth, too, because you kind of saw some glimpses earlier in the season of what Daquan Wright could be, and it looked like he could really help. And then now you see him against Arkansas, and it's like, yeah, he can help. And then obviously you get a couple other receivers that go out and have big days. Update the health for us on this football team. Receiver, running back, a couple other spots that looks like it may be concerning, but obviously getting healthier at the same time.
Yeah, obviously we'll wait to see, tonight when they start those, availability reports for the week where they place Trey Harris. I would assume questionable. Maybe they move him to probable this week since he sat out Saturday, but that's your big one. And also Caden Prescorn, what's his status? But, like we saw that with Daquan White, he is a good backup and can help open up that offense for them. But that's the key ones. Henry Parrish is probably out for the year. We haven't gotten a full-on update on him because they keep that stuff close, but they removed him from the depth chart we get on Monday, and Lane never changes the depth chart from August to December. It's just copy and paste every week, and they removed him. So I think that should tell us everything we need to know. And they've got a bunch of oars with Ulysses Bentley, Matt Jones, and Dominic Thomas, who kind of had his kind of, I guess, quote unquote breakout when he had to come in after Parrish's injury. So it feels like there's not a true starter at running back, but I liked what I saw out of Thomas, and I would love for them to maybe use Bentley in a different way. If they're not going to hand him the ball, if that's, we've been banging our heads asking why on that all year, use him in a different way in the passing game.
Well, I've heard a bunch of people as I prepare for this game this weekend talking about Ulysses Bentley and why is he not getting used, and PFF had on this, and he was the highest graded this, and it's like, well, the fact that he came in way overweight and isn't the same player as last year, is that not a factor Like, I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, the guy isn't the same guy as he was last year. And while he did have some nice performances and played well against LSU, to expect him to be last year's version of himself, to me, feels like a bit of a reach. So are we kind of quelling the dilemma or quelling the animosity around this coaching staff with who's getting touches in the run game?
We've asked, and I think there is something to what you said there about Bentley. That's kind of come out now as we've asked around, and saw he was a little bit bigger in training camp, fall camp, whatever you want to call it. And then we just kind of wondered why he wasn't getting touches at all, and then maybe letting us see that he's not the same guy on the field. And I saw a little bit of that Saturday when they did give him some chances. He was making some bad reads, wasn't really bursting through, and then you saw Thomas come in. So I think there is more to it. I know there's been a lot from the fan base that it's Kevin Smith is just playing his guy Henry, who followed him from Ole Miss to Miami back to Ole Miss, and it was just kind of that thing. But I think there's more to it than the favoritism card a lot of people were trying to play. I think it is something maybe Bentley came in, didn't handle the offseason correctly in terms of his body getting right, or put pounds on, but not the right way, and it slowed him down and put him behind the pecking order. And I mean, I was shocked when Matt Jones was getting carries over him, and I think that says a lot of where they felt the others had progressed and Bentley didn't. And now you're seeing Dominic Thomas, who hasn't done much at all this year, which is kind of another body in the room, and came in and was the guy that replaced Parrish. So I think we finally got to see that they just don't have that value in Bentley that they had last year.
We're talking with Jake Thompson of the On3 Sports Network, covers Ole Miss for Ole Miss Spirit. At Jake Thompson On3, you can follow him on Twitter. We know the defense has been great. Leads the nation in sacks, tackles for loss. 6 games this year, they've had double-digit TFLs in a game. Are there still any real concerns for Pete Golding's group? Are there still areas that they look at and say, we feel like this could be a problem moving forward?
I think the secondary is just still kind of iffy. I mean, I know Trey Amos has played well, and some other guys have stepped up, but I think if there is that weak link still, it is the secondary, but it's been masked with how well the defensive line has played the last 2 games. I mean, 9 sacks and 8 sacks doesn't allow the secondary to get exposed as much when you pressure the quarterback. And Chris Paul has been a tremendous addition from Arkansas to the linebacker. Him and TJ Daugherty have done a tremendous job in fixing what has always been the biggest question mark for Lane on the defense, is that linebacker room. But him and Pete have shored all that up. But still, we haven't had good play out of the secondary at times. We saw that in the massive play by Barry and Brown in the Kentucky game. And we saw that a couple times against LSU, where some guys just got turned around and just looked out of place or couldn't make the play or just fell down altogether, especially that overtime play. So I think that's the one area. But the way the 2 front levels have played, it's just been able to kind of mask it since that LSU game.
Kennedy 28 is concerning. The other thing that would be concerning, well, it's partly because he plays his tail off, but he's like 5'9". I mean, this is the SEC. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a tough spot to be in. And if he's your best option, you might be able to get away with it at Tulane. But I don't know if you can get away with it, against 6'3" wide receivers that are strong, physical, and can attack the ball. The other thing I would say is one thing that's been a huge problem are the penalties. And while I look at some of these teams, and yeah, you can have penalties against Wake Forest and have drive extending penalties, and you're fine. But against Kentucky, they have 3 first downs on penalties, and next thing you know, they score a touchdown in a game where points are at a premium. Is there reason to believe that this gets cleaned up? Because if you're giving Georgia extra chances, that's not going to be a good recipe this weekend.
Yeah, no, the penalties is also probably the 1B to the 1A of the defensive problem, and it's been the careless penalties, the horse collar or the tackling, the stuff that you would think they would be able to clean up or fix, and they haven't, and that's been killer. And they looked a little bit better in that regard last week, or the penalties weren't as afflictive as they have been, but that may have been because the score was so out of hand so quick. Oklahoma, that kind of turned his head a little bit, but you're right. If they give this Carson Beck offense, a chance, a fresh breath of life on a down or a drive where they should be out of there, it's going to cost them. They're going to pay for that. I don't know how you fix it if they haven't been able to fix it now. It just feels like some of these players kind of lose their mindset when it comes to some of those penalties. It's just careless, and I guess undisciplined is the word we all like to say.
Jake Thompson covers Ole Miss. He joins us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Jake, I'm interested what you've heard from, talked to people in that facility about what the offensive line has been and kind of where they think it is right now for Ole Miss this year.
Yeah, I feel like it's a disappointment. They won't flat out say that, obviously, but it just feels like it hasn't been what they thought it'd be, especially getting 2 transfers from a team that was playing for a national title, a year ago, and Colepo and Bulow, and the pass blocking has been bad, and also they've been snake bit by injuries all year. But I feel like those still wouldn't mask some of the problems, because they were having these problems last year in pass protection or just slowing down a defensive front when these guys were healthy a year ago that were on the team. And I think there's kind of been a question of how are they doing in recruiting and player evaluation or player development even. I know John Garrison's kind of taken a lot of hits, same as Charlie Weiss Jr. when the offense struggles. That's kind of the next guy that's getting a hit as the offensive line coach. And, they've got guys they've recruited, but we just aren't seeing development at as fast a pace as we're even seeing some of the younger guys on the defensive line develop when they get a chance to get in there. So, they've got size and they got bodies up front, but they've looked better, in a couple weeks, but it's still, that's also kind of a major issue on the offensive side, is you've got to allow Dart to have time, and especially against this Georgia defensive front that's coming in.
Jake, we always appreciate the time. Great stuff. It's going to be a fun one this weekend, man. Enjoy it. If you see McElroy, ask him about his history as a saxophonist over there in Athens.
I will do that.
There you go. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it, man.
If we end up in the elevator together, I will ask that question.
Now we're talking.
He'll tell you how he was first seat, front seat.
First chair.
First chair. Sorry. I don't know what that means, but okay. Jake, appreciate the time, man.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Yes, sir. Jake Thompson joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline, talking Ole Miss. I want to follow up on a little bit of that with you, Greg, when we come back on the other side. We'll talk some Ole Miss, playoff opportunities. Still got to get to Alabama as well, right here on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9:52 a.m. Wednesday, November 6th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Your CBD store has products that can help your daily routine. Skincare, gut health, arthritis, anxiety for you or your pet. They can help with that at the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer on planet Earth. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. They've got the stamp seal on those products so they meet and achieve a certain set of standards. Your CBD store, also the Trim by SunMed for weight loss on the shelves now. So if you need to get in before Thanksgiving and the holidays get here to help offset the weight issues, they want to help you be able to do that at one of their 3 locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleveland, Trustful just off 459, and now downtown at 5 Points, your CBD store where good health hits home. Alabama comes in at 11, Greg. And we know what's ahead. We know what the schedule looks like. We know what this team is accomplished so far. Sandwiched between Notre Dame and Boise, BYU, Indiana, Tennessee ahead, Boise, SMU, A&M, LSU behind. What were your thoughts on Alabama at 11? And did it change your perception of them being in or out of the college football playoff this year?
No, I think Alabama's path is pretty clear. Win out and you're in great shape. Lose one, probably on the outside looking in, depending on how things happen around you. I think it's pretty simple. And a lot of people were a bit up in arms with Alabama's inclusion in the top 11. Like, just look at their resume. I mean, the Vanderbilt loss is no longer a bad loss, guys. Like, Vanderbilt's good. You lose against Tennessee in a game that it was a close game. I mean, it's a top 7 opponent. The teams have already told us, and the committee has already told us, whether you agree with it or not. I for one, don't agree with it. Who you lose to and how badly you lose, where you lose, to me, I don't really factor that in as much, but the committee does, and they told you that last night when they justified Ohio State being number 2 ahead of Georgia. So Bama's sitting there, and they have a win over Georgia, which is a top 2 win in the country. Oregon has the best win. That would be over number 2 Ohio State. They also have another win against Missouri, who's ranked 24th right now. And if you look at Alabama's record, every single team they've played is above 500. Every single team they've played. The one team that is 500 is South Florida. So Wisconsin, South Carolina, I think many people believe should be ranked. Western Kentucky's 6-2, Missouri's 6-2. Wisconsin's 5-4. Everyone's above 500. So nobody's played a more challenging schedule as far as win-loss record of opponents than Alabama. So makes sense to me.
Absolutely. All right, so a lot more to discuss as it pertains to the college football playoff rankings. Pete Nakos of the On3 Sports Network going to be with us next. We'll discuss that with him. His thoughts on maybe who was too low, who's too high, who is he now concerned about not getting into the playoff. And then he's got a good article out on college football coaches' hot seats. One SEC head coach who he feels like is off the hot seat, that a lot of people believe is on it. We'll discuss who may get there and who's already on it and has got some work to do to get off of it for the rest of this college football season. That and more, all coming up next right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Listen online, jocksfm.com. You can grab the app in your app store, watch live on YouTube, search Jocks945. Always be a part of the show that way. Tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill, and we'll talk more college football right after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, final hour of the show. 9 a.m. Wednesday, November 6th. Jocks 94.5. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945 each and every morning. Going to get to Pete Nakos here in just a moment. Talk hot seats, college football playoff rankings. First, G-Mac, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Bromberg's is the one place where you know you're going to go in and have that amazing experience when you're making a significant investment in something that might live for multi-generations. And when you go in their store and you buy a watch or a piece of jewelry or a gift for somebody, you know that that gift might last a lifetime. You know that watch could be something you pass down to your great-grandchildren someday. So I know when I walk into Bromberg's, I'm not just buying something that's important to me, I'm buying something that might be important to many generations of my family, which is why I will only shop at Bromberg's, because the sales staff is incredible and the experience is unique and one of a kind. So go and see them in one of their 2 locations in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit, or you can always shop online at brombergs.com.
All right, go to the Buyers Right hotline now. Welcome in Pete Nakos of the On3 Sports Network. Pete, I want to start with the college football playoff rankings last night. What did you love? What did you hate about the original version of this with the 12-team playoff?
I think what I love, Cole, and you've been talking about this, but, it was really great to see in person the 12 teams that are in it, right? It makes college football so much more exciting down the stretch. On the flip side, though, the one thing I hated was Penn State should not be ahead of Indiana and SMU, man. Like, I guess credit to James Franklin for what he's done and winning the games he has to, but he can't win the big game. And I think Indiana and SMU have proven that they're just the better college football teams to this point in the season.
Don't say that too loud. The establishment will freak out because I'm seemingly told every year that Penn State is, because they won championships in the 80s and the late 70s, they are a blue blood, even though their record since 1980 against Ohio State is 7-25, and they've won 4 times since 2000. But I digress. I agree with you completely, but I would also lump Texas in that mix as well, Pete, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, based on what they've done this year, I think Texas is really good. I think they have a lot of talent, but their resume does not warrant being ahead of Indiana and BYU, because both are not just unblemished in the win-loss, but they also have better resumes. So can you add Texas and kind of pair them with Penn State right now, or no?
Yeah, no, I can see that. I guess for me, it's just something about Penn State. I mean, they just can't win the big game right now. I guess I know Michigan isn't what it was. I guess I'm giving too much credit to Texas for going into Ann Arbor and winning that game, but I see what you're saying right there.
All right, Pete Nakos of the On3 Sports Network joining us on the Buyers Right hotline. We'll move on from the college football playoff rankings. You got an interesting article up now on college football head coaching hot seats, and there's one specifically in the SEC that you say may be off. I think a lot of people just look at it as a matter of time for Sam Pittman, but you believe he's done enough, he's earned enough credibility this year to be retained as Arkansas's head football coach?
Yeah, talking to a lot of sources and agents who are trying to get their guys in position to get jobs and stuff like that. And the going thought right now is that Sam Pittman has done enough to keep his job with Talon Green and Bobby Petrino's offense, and they're only 1 game away from bowl eligibility. And, I know Arkansas fans have a certain expectation, and for all we know, in a year we'll be sitting here and saying Sam Pittman's on his way to being fired. But as of right now in the 2024 season, he's done enough. And the other interesting thing too, Cole, is he has one of the more interesting buyouts in college sports, right? It fluctuates with his overall record since 2021. So because he has a winning record, 25-22 since 21, his buyout's at $12 million, which by no means is a ton of money for an SEC school, but I think it's enough for them to hold on for another year, especially with what's going on the football field.
Yeah, but what do you make of the possible finish? Not saying. I mean, I was inclined to believe, hey, he's safe. I actually talked with a couple of my Arkansas folks, almost pleading to them, he has no business getting let go, based on how this season's gone. Like they've been very competitive. They're clearly improved. The guys are playing their tail off. And then last week happened, and the returned text messages are a little bit fewer and farther between. So you got Texas next week. You get beat there, and then you go on the road at Missouri. Does he have to win both to solidify his standing, or does he win one of the two and maybe he's in good shape?
So there's Louisiana Tech in between Texas and Missouri too. I think if he wins that Louisiana Tech game, obviously, and then either Texas or Missouri, I think that might be convincing enough, right? That gets him to 7 wins. Texas at Arkansas, right? We've seen some things happen there before, so I'll just be really interested to see how that game plays out, especially because it's at Arkansas. But you're right, man. Trying to go to Missouri Thanksgiving Day weekend, that's going to be really fascinating. I think they can win one of the two. And if I'm a betting man here, I'm going with the Missouri game. But I guess we'll have to see how the next 2-3 weeks play out.
All right, Pete, one of the other big ones that everybody wants to talk about, obviously Florida. And things have looked better, appeared to be better. But then you lose to Georgia. We know the hand that's been dealt. Where are things with Billy Napier right now?
Yeah, I wrote about this in the story. Like, everyone wants to announce it's going one way or the other right now. And the honest to God truth, which is not making Florida fans happy, is like the tune keeps changing. Like there's it's not leaning one way or the other, right? After that Texas A&M game, the 33-20 loss in Gainesville, it really seemed like that was it. Like that may have very well been Billy's last game as the Florida head coach, and things have shifted since then. They've played Tennessee and Georgia really close. Keep talking to people about DJ Lagway this week. There is going to be a chance for him to go. I think we'll get more information in the next 48 hours, but he really wants to play against his home state school of Texas. So I think that I don't want to say there's momentum, but I think that because the Florida administration is kind of the mess it is, and the fact that this team's actually looked pretty good with DJ Lagway as their quarterback down the stretch, I think that it's really left up a lot of questions in the air about what's going to happen to Billy Napier. And, my colleague Andy Staples wrote today, what if, just throwing this out there, but what if they hold on to Billy Napier, they keep DJ Lagway, and all the money they were going to spend on that $20.6 million buyout went to the transfer portal. And then you see something that happened at Ohio State happen at Florida.
Pete Nakos. Go ahead, Greg. Go ahead.
Interesting.
You got
No. I've never even thought of the whole buyout implications, and I think it makes sense. Like, are you better served paying a coach, or is that money better served keeping the coach that you have and investing it in the roster? It's a delicate balance nowadays compared to what it once was. When you look at Florida, if Lagway's out for the foreseeable future, do you anticipate them being able to get any of these games down the stretch?
That Florida State game at the end of the year definitely looks doable.
Okay, yeah, that's
even
right.
If you don't have Lagway.
Yeah. Forgot that one's on the schedule. But yes, other than that one.
I'm going to lean towards a no. No offense to the third stringer, Aiden Warner, but he definitely struggled against Georgia. And, the one other thing, too, about this Lagway-Billy Napier situation is, DJ Lagway actually really likes Billy Napier. That keeps coming up in all the conversations I'm having. And I wonder if there's a decision where they sit down and talk to DJ Lagway and be like, hey, if we hold on to Billy, are you back in for next year? And is that enough to almost save Billy Napier's job? And I know that's an oversimplification of the situation, but he's that good of a quarterback where it might be worthwhile to build a really good roster around someone like DJ Lagway.
Pete, what are you hearing about the upcoming transfer portal window? I've had a couple of people say this is going to be the craziest it's ever been, and it's going to be nuts, it's going to be bonkers, and I feel like we're going to say that the next few times that we get it, just because we're just heading further down that path. But is there any reason to believe it's going to be X amount extra or X amount less than what we've seen the last maybe 2 windows?
Everyone likes to say it's going to be crazy. I haven't heard anything to make me be like, it's not going to be crazy. I guess my answer to it, though, is more and more dollars are being spent on college football rosters. And until that slows down and until revenue sharing actually starts and collectives are like completely out of the picture, I'm going to continue to tell you that I think a lot of guys are going to go in the portal because it's going to be a payday for a lot of athletes. And beyond that, too, with roster limits coming, and I'm not exactly certain when that's fully going to start, I think that is going to also encourage some guys to go in the portal and make sure that they go somewhere where they really feel like they have a chance to like play and start.
All right, before we let you run, what's the latest with Oklahoma and their offensive coordinator search?
Yeah, Oklahoma's in a really tough spot right now, right? If they don't make a bowl game, I don't think they move on from Brent Venables, but the fans are really going to be making a push, and that's going to add even more pressure to this upcoming. It'll be year 4 for Brent Venables and Norman. So, as far as the OC search, he hasn't dived into it yet, mostly because he's just trying to coach for his job right now. But he is going to have that opportunity, obviously, to make this hire. I expect that to ramp up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And there's a couple names I kind of have an eye on right this second. First off is Ben Arbuckle. He's done a really good job at Washington State. And then Tulane's Joe Craddock has also come up in conversations. The other one to keep an eye on, too, is the Indiana OC, Mike Shanahan. He's had a ton of success this year with Curtis Rourke up at Indiana. So those are kind of the names to watch there, but that search is really just getting started.
There you go. Pete, we appreciate the time. Always good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll do it again soon.
You bet. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Pete Nakos with the On3 Sports Network. Follow him on Twitter at Pete Nakos _NAKOS. Find all his work at on3.com. That article about college football coaching carousel up now. You can go find it. You can also find ways for Polar Bear Services to help you around your home, GMAC.
Well, you'd almost be better served trying to find ways they can't help you because there's so many things that they can do around your house. It's honestly amazing. I mean, you name it, they can try to fix it. They specialize in plumbing, electrical, small appliance repair, but their best attribute is the HVAC. That's what they've been doing forever. They've just only added to the repertoire of amazing ways that they can help you around your home. Go and check them out today. I'm telling you, you're going to be so grateful for the types of services that they can provide and the professionalism that their staff will show. Go and call them. Remember, if you have a problem with your heat, air, plumbing, or electrical, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
All right, when we come back, a little bit more on Alabama's spot in the college football playoff rankings. What might it take for them to assure themselves of being in? We'll discuss it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We mentioned Alabama's spot at number 11 in the college football playoff rankings. Continue discussing that. Get your thoughts on it. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. Text in 205-834-9450. Louis Giarman tweets into the show at Mac and Cube. You can be a part of the show there. So Georgia plays Texas in SEC champ game. Texas wins, they get bye. Georgia gets home game, no controversy. Georgia wins. Texas goes from hosting to road game. Committee hasn't discussed this. But
I'm confused. Read it one more time.
Georgia plays Texas championship game. Texas wins, they get bye. Georgia gets a home game.
Yes.
No controversy. Georgia wins. Texas goes from hosting to a road game. Committee has not discussed this.
Not necessarily.
It's not a guarantee.
Not at all. I don't think that's a guarantee at all. And the committee did reference last night, Ward Manuel, the committee chair, did reference the possibility of, hey, we're going to acknowledge the fact that teams that play in conference championships, we might not hold it against them the way you think we should, basically.
And that's one of our biggest questions we've had. Where are conference championship game losers going to go? Because that perception has been pretty bleak in previous years. But those have also been some pretty good football teams.
Yeah.
I would say if that happens and you get in, who cares? Obviously, you want a home game. You want the bye, but you're in the playoff. Would be odd, though, if that was the spot for Texas, excuse me, to think too poorly about them. I mean, I don't know how you could look at that Texas team and not think that they were one of the best in the country if your only two losses came to the same team, one at home and one at a neutral site. I mean, how far down could they really go?
No, I don't think they'd go down very far at all. I think you look at Texas, they're probably in a pretty good spot. Here's the problem. You're operating under the assumption that Texas beats Texas A&M. Texas A&M at that point would be handed their third loss. You got to hope that A&M beats Auburn if you're Texas, as backwards as that might feel. But you really think about it. I mean, A&M, we could fast forward 3 weeks from now, and A&M could have two losses. I mean, they're a narrow favorite at Auburn, and they're a 7-point favorite, a narrow favorite at Auburn, and they're a 7-point dog right now against Texas. So if they're 8-4 and they fall out of the top 25, then Texas might still not have a win against the top 25 team. So that's why I think they could potentially go on the road in the first round of the playoffs, because their resume wouldn't be that great, even if they got to the conference championship game.
Yeah, that's a great point to think about it. All right, so Bama at 11. Is it basically just win out and you're in right now?
I think it's that simple. Are you on the same page?
I think so, because, I mean, you get this win against LSU. That's a team that the committee obviously thinks pretty highly of. Mercer's not going to do much. At Oklahoma, maybe a little bit. Auburn at least is a rivalry game. But I think if you get past this one against LSU, the majority of your heavy lifting is then done. And if you're at 11 now and you get that LSU win, also based on where some of these other teams are going to be over the next few weeks by playing one another, you would imagine that, I think if they beat LSU, they're probably sitting around 9 next week, maybe 8. And you're in pretty good shape. Handle your business. A couple other teams going to pick each other off, and you should be good to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty simple for Alabama. I don't think there's much to it at all. You win this week, you're in great shape. You lose this week, you're out. I mean, to be honest with you, I like clarity. Like, I need to know where I stand. I want to know where I want to know what it takes to make it in or not make it in, what have you. So I'm great with it. I cannot, under any circumstances, see a path where they get in if they lose this weekend. It might happen, but it's going to require upsets across the board, which are always possible in college football, but unlikely, I think, this season.
Okay, so back to your sort of some things when you add them up with this don't make a whole lot of sense. You look at Alabama at 11, okay, the highest ranked 2-loss team, correct? 6-2. The loss is at Vanderbilt, at Tennessee. The loss at Tennessee makes plenty of sense as to how it wouldn't ding Alabama that bad. They have Tennessee at 11. But how can you have Alabama at 11, Greg, Tennessee at 7, and if Vanderbilt is that other loss for Alabama, they're not even in the top 25?
I don't know. I'm not sure I have an answer for you there. I don't know.
I understand probably the loss at Georgia State is one that the committee would look at and say, we don't like that one.
Of course not.
But I mean,
how can you? But I don't like the loss by NIU. I don't like the loss by Notre Dame to NIU either.
Okay, but did you not say that Ward Manuel spent time talking about point differential and how you lose?
He did, yeah. Against good teams, that was. I mean, that lost too.
That was a close game on the road at Georgia State. You're playing in a weird baseball stadium. I mean, that's okay. We'll give them some credit for that. I mean,
I get it.
You play Missouri on the road. You had opportunities in that one. You go to overtime. You had Texas in a tight game late at home. That's a team that you think a lot about, obviously, being number 5. It goes back to what you said earlier. If all the other things make sense about one or two teams and where they're ranked, then this makes no sense about that team not being ranked.
None. I think Vandy should be in the top 25. No, I can't put them ahead of Missouri. And Missouri's in the top 25. But Vandy's got a much stronger resume than Clemson.
Yeah, it's fair.
It's not close. Now, if you want to have them behind Louisville, I'm fine with that. Vandy's got a much stronger resume than Army. Like, look at Army's best win. Like, seriously, I'm not trying to, not knocking Army. I'm fine with them being in the mix as the G5 champ. Like, I got a ton of respect for Army and how they've done things and how their coach has built this program. But tell me right now who Army's beaten. Because at this point, I look at Army's wins and not super impressive. Do you want to know the combined record of all Army's teams?
All their wins? Probably not many. 12?
Well, against FBS teams, they are 17-41. That's all Army's wins. Their best win is against East Carolina, who's 4-4.
Yikes.
Yikes, with a humongous exclamation point at the end. Army has no business being in the top 25, but because they're a good story and they feel good, like, put them in. They have no business. None whatsoever.
It does go back to what we talked about with BYU, that maybe conversation nationally, noise created, discussed, whatever, unfortunately can influence committee members and thought processes, and that's not good. We don't want that. We don't need that. Not for this.
Nope.
Not something that needs to be taking place.
And it's not and like I said, it's not Army's fault that someone else is, it's not Army's fault that they're getting rewarded, but it is the committee's fault that they are rewarding them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Army doesn't have anything to apologize for. Hey, we beat who we're supposed to beat. We're undefeated. We're in a great spot. But the reality is, how many teams having played Army's schedule would be undefeated? And my estimation is a whole heap. A whole heap. So that's my frustration with that. And look, I don't think it does the SEC, and people they always just tell me I'm just a huge SEC homer. I'm just being real. Like, there's no way on earth that you couldn't take 14 teams in the SEC, play Army schedule, and be undefeated.
No, totally fair. All right.
I mean, Auburn plays Army schedule. They might lose one because they'll turn it over 4 times, but.
Wow.
What?
I still have confidence that they'd be good against Army schedule.
Rice?
Well, there's no Pavia on there, so they'd be okay.
Well, their second best win this year is against Tulsa, who just lost by how many to UAB?
A
whole heap?
A lot of points. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
so, not great.
What do I know?
Either way that you look at it, not great. Game day men's health is great, and they want to help you feel great. If you are on edge, if you are lacking sleep, maybe you just feel like you're not in a good mood, got brain fog, could be the effects of low testosterone. And Game Day Men's Health would like to help you with this. Here's what they're going to do. You go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Sign up for a free consultation. Free. They're going to give you a free PSA test and a free testosterone test right out of the gate. No charge, no cost. And you're going to get a pretty good idea of how you feel right there. Then they're going to give you the options of what they can do for you. A lot of different services in which they can help you feel better every day. And you can save 10% on any of those by mentioning Cube when you walk in the door. Get all the facts and more at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Tell them you heard about them right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It's a great locker room environment. No stress, no pressure, good people in there. They just want to help you feel better. Go check out their holistic approach to health and wellness. Weight loss programs also available. Book your free consult today at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. All right, when we come back, we've mentioned a little bit of some of the games coming up this weekend. I want to go ahead and start spinning forward to some of the matchups that we're going to get, and what do we think about what needs to happen on both sides of Alabama-LSU, Georgia-Ole Miss, some of those games in the SEC this weekend. We'll start that conversation next on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 9:31, Wednesday, November 6th, right here on Jocks 94.5. So we've talked about a couple of these games coming up this weekend. Had Jake Thompson on a little bit earlier to talk Ole Miss, Georgia. Greg, you're on that call for that one. You started to do a little bit of work on it. I said coming out of that Arkansas game, the main thing that I learned about Ole Miss, and it was tough because it wasn't the game style that Arkansas really wanted or needed, so they had to get off their plan. But basically, I came away thinking Ole Miss might be able to lean on this defense. Now, the secondary still has some questions, as you guys discussed, but at front seven, specifically the defensive line, that might be a group that can actually not just be okay and offset the amount of points that Ole Miss is going to score anyway, but they might be able to go win a game for you.
Their D-line's amazing. I mean, they come in waves. I think they have a ton of different guys that can take things over. I love their D-line. And I think this is a real good money game for them. You know what I mean? I mean, this is why Lane Kiffin went out and recruited the guys he recruited to, hey, this is your money game. Like, you want to go make money? You want to go become a first-round pick? These are the games that you want to play, and these are the games that you want to play well in. Because if you go out and you dominate Georgia, guess what? That's going to improve your draft stock. That's going to improve your ability to be compensated to play the game that you want to play. So I feel pretty good about them playing really well this weekend. And I think this defensive line can give Georgia all sorts of fits. Even if Georgia's back to 100% with Tate Ratledge and company, I just don't think the offensive line's played great all year. And I think this is probably the best front they've seen.
They've played good, but not great, and haven't been elite. There have been fronts that have given the Georgia offensive line problems, and this could be one that does that. From a Georgia defense perspective, surface level, as you've begun to dive into this matchup, how does Ole Miss attack it? Because they're even though this isn't the same Georgia front we've seen the last 5-6 years, Ole Miss isn't pushing them around.
No.
We've already talked about the Texas game, how Georgia does a nice job tackling in space. So creating that might not be as advantageous against them as it will some other teams. How do you think Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane go at this Georgia defense?
I think you just throw the kitchen sink at them through the air. I mean, here's the problem with Georgia. One, I don't think Ole Miss can block them. Are we on the same page there? You're the
yes,
O-line
100%.
expert.
No, they can't.
Okay.
They won't.
Okay, like they can't. I mean, so you just already know why try. You're not going to win that battle. Doesn't mean you abandon the run game. It just means you probably got to go a little more outside the tackles, and that's not been something that Ole Miss has really leaned on this year because they're a heavy RPO team. Like, they get you to commit. And if you run outside the tackles, that kind of eliminates the reasoning for RPO. So they're not really an outside the tackle run team. They're not really a team that's going to try to gash you. I just don't see that happening. But I do think that when you look at Georgia, one area of their defense, they give up a lot of deep balls. Like, they give up deep balls down the field. The problem is you got to be able to block them to get there. And you know what they're not very good at? We know what they are really good about? Tackling in space and not giving up yards after catch. Georgia's among the best in the country in not allowing yards after catch. So that will be something worth monitoring, because if Ole Miss can't get yak, they got problems, I think. That's such a huge part of their offense. And if Georgia's great tackling and you don't create a ton of separation, look out. I mean, you're going to have to win some one-on-ones downfield, and I don't know if Ole Miss can hold up long enough to do that.
Georgia tied for 9th in the country, 17 plays through the air of 20 yards or more allowed this season. There would only be Texas, Iowa State, ULL, Minnesota, Northern Illinois, Washington, Miami, Ohio State, Arizona State, BYU have had either more, or allowed less, or the same. Plays of 30 yards or more, Georgia's still pretty good there. Not something that they've given up 9, but it's not bad as far as what that is nationally. So kind of like what you said, they don't allow a ton of explosive plays through the air down the field. That takes time. That's the main reason they don't allow those. So, and I will say this, Lane and Charlie have done a good job of having creativity in the run game, Greg. It's just, it hasn't gotten going. Like, they'll change up the run schemes. The backs will have a different track, or they'll block it a little bit of a different way. They'll show it through a different formation, but it's just, I guess in the last 2-3 years, we're used to seeing that work and that be successful when they've altered it or changed it. And it hadn't gotten going this year.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's going to be an area where they're just going to have to continue to lean into it, because I'm not sure that this drop back passing attack led by Jackson Dart is going to just be able to carve you up. I think Jackson Dart's a solid player. I think he's got a really good supporting cast, but I don't think he's a game changer. So I think he needs his guys to play really well. I think if Trey Harris is there, which I expect, I think Trey Harris will play this week. I don't know for sure. I mean, he's been a little banged up since the South Carolina game, but I think he'll be available. this week. If Trey Harris can go, that's big. Now you got a big body receiver that can play physical on the perimeter. But this one might be as much about Caden Lee, their slot guy, as it is their outside guys, because they're going to get physical and they're going to have to win some back shoulders and win some deep balls and all this other stuff. But I think their slot situation is not great. Janelle Aguero is fine. He's a solid player. But sometimes they move Malachi Starks down there, and Malachi's good, but he's a safety. And I get a good, quick slot receiver against a safety. I like that matchup all day long. So that's something I think worth watching in this one as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I do think there are multiple paths for it to be competitive both ways. So I'm interested to see it, and you're going to be on the call for it. Going to be fun. Alabama-LSU also coming up this weekend. We got plenty of time to discuss that one, plenty of time to talk about it, break it down. We'll do that throughout the course of the week. And when we come back, spend a little more time on that matchup next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 9:41 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC dealer again. National champs. That's 4 in a row. Thank you, Alabama, for making them number one, and thank you to the Southeast for buying more vehicles from Bill Smith than any other dealer in the southeastern part of the United States. You can go and check out the deals that you'll find on the lot. There's a reason why everyone continues to shop at Bill Smith. They ship to all corners of our country because the deals are just, they're unbelievably good. Like a GMC Sierra 2024 1500 SLT that's $13,500 off the sticker. That means you're getting it under $54,500. And you're going to get good rates. You're going to get great financing, got the best inventory, and you're going to get the best service. Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager take great care of you. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers, because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take a short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
Beginning to take a look at Alabama and LSU. You think we talked a lot about LSU, kind of what they are, what they think they are, what they might not be. What do you think the best way for Alabama to attack that defense is going to be Saturday night?
I think they have to be able to go quarterback run. I mean, if you look at the numbers statistically for Texas A&M against LSU, quarterback run killed them. I mean, absolutely killed them. And then you go back to last year and you look at what Alabama's done on the ground. Last year, if you exclude a couple sacks, Jalen Milroe went for about 170 on 18 carries. I know it's a different defense. I know it's different personnel. I know it's a different coordinator. I know all of that. I know it's a different offense. I know, but it's the same quarterback, and it's the same challenges that LSU has had for the last 2 years because it just unveiled itself last week. Now, I think the hype surrounding Marcel Reed and his performance against LSU was a bit dramatized potentially, because I mean he got the ball in favorable situations multiple times, but he did give him some fits with design quarterback run game. You look at what LSU's given up against quarterbacks this year on design rushes and scrambles. They're giving up 6.5 yards a carry. That's the worst in the SEC. They got 5 rushing touchdowns given up. That's second worst. They've given up a 75-yard touchdown run. That's the worst and the longest run given up by a defense against a quarterback this year. And 10% of the carries against LSU have gone for touchdown. That is by quarterbacks. That's second worst. So it's not great. And I think that's going to be something that I would use heavily in my plan if I were Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer.
How do you view Alabama LSU right now, Damian? Looking ahead to it.
Man, I think it's gonna be a competitive matchup. But I agree with Greg 100%. If Jalen Milroe can utilize his legs like he did last season, and in some of the spots that he's had to carry it this year, I think that's going to be the best recipe, because I do think Garrett Nussmeier is going to serve him up at least 2. I think he's going to serve him up at least 2, but
at least 2.
At least 2.
Which means could be more.
Yeah, right. And it's not out the realm of possibility. But let me tell you about my buddy Ben Hedden of the Beham Realty Group. If you think about selling your home, and when it comes to selling, you only want excellence, you need to give my buddy Ben a call at 205-568-2705 or go to BehamRealtyCo.com. If you're struggling to get your house sold because the markets are changing every single day, you need an expert that focuses on adapting at half the time to make sure you and your squad come out on top. That's Ben Hedden of the Beham Realty Group. You can visit their website at BehamRealtyCo.com or give them a call at 205-568-2705.
All right, let's get to our bad box scores of the day.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Intentional grounding, offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here, excuse me.
That's the game.
We have told you this time of year is the gift that keeps on giving. Unfortunately, right here close to home last night, the Tennessee Lady
Volunteers.
They just snuck past the Sanford Lady
Bulldogs.
101-53.
Oof, that's a double up.
Hate to see it.
The Pitt Lady
Panthers.
Panthros.
just got past the Canisius
Cardinals.
No. I love the confidence, though.
Yeah.
Is it bad that like the only thing I can think of is like clown? Like I've seen so many
They are
clown
not the clowns.
emojis. I don't
They
think
are
the
not.
clowns make sense.
no.
This is one that no one will know and no one would guess. You can't guess this.
The Griffin, excuse me.
No, they're the Golden Griffins.
Oh.
Told you wouldn't get it. Do you know what a griffin is?
Yeah.
Not Peter.
Oh, then no. Yeah, the half eagle, half lion, half
How did you know
other
that?
stuff.
Because of Harry
ironically,
Potter.
a Family Guy joke.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Harry Potter. You knew that because of that. Come on.
Okay. Well, the
Because I play
Griffins,
instruments doesn't mean I'm into that.
Golden Griffins, they didn't fly, scratch, or claw much in this game. They were 13 of 39 from the floor, 1 of 13 from 3. They were only out-rebounded 43 to 27.
Okay.
And they turned the ball over 35 times in a
That's
basketball
what got
game.
him.
That's a quagmire.
That's
moly.
what got him.
Pitt shot 20 of 30 from the free throw line, 28 of 64 from the floor.
They didn't stop fouling him.
That was a little bit of a problem. Also last night, ladies basketball, the Michigan State
Lady Spartans.
Spartanettes.
just snuck past the Oakland.
Bears?
No, we had them.
We had the men's head coach on. We haven't had the women's head coach.
What were they?
They're the Golden Grizzlies.
I knew it. I was
Okay,
thinking
yeah.
Bears. I was thinking Bears.
Now, even though this was 31-10 at the end of one, it didn't get any better. Our final score was 107 to 42.
God almighty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And that, by the way, for the Oakland Lady Golden Grizzlies is with Monica Skorupski going 6 of 16, 7 of 9 from the free throw line for 19 points.
She did her job.
She scored a. Okay.
The
Said her
team
name.
shot 16 of 52. They shot 17 threes.
Give her some help.
Wait.
Ah.
Hold on. What?
They shot 17 threes. They did not make one.
See? She can't do it herself.
10 of 18 from the free throw line.
She can't do it either. I guess. She didn't hit one.
No, she didn't. Michigan State shot 35 of 70 from the floor, 11 of 24 from 3, 26 of 37 from the free throw line.
Oh,
This is America now.
33 turnovers for Oakland in this match.
See, okay.
Yeah,
That's the turning
a
point.
little bit better, I guess.
Is Garoppolo playing?
No, he was not. Northern Iowa took out Wisconsin lacrosse 99 to 56.
Oh, they got the lacrosse players to play? Ugh.
I guess. TCU knocked off Houston Christian 78 to 41. The Northwestern State.
Malamutes.
No, they have a cool mascot. You should know this.
Saxophone players.
They're, what are they like?
I feel like I know
Purple
this.
Demons.
We know this
or-
because LSU plays them in football all the
Those
time.
are the Demons or something? Purple Demons?
Just Demons.
Demons.
Lady Demons.
Demons,
They
dude,
went
that's a
down
good
to
one.
the Champion Christian College. Yeah, they're just the Tigers. You don't have to think.
Oh, no.
It's okay. It's all right.
Patriots.
Your final score was 84 to 33.
Okay,
In
that's
a full
not-
basketball
that's
game.
not terrible.
19 to
kinda-
6
kinda
in the
is.
first. And Northwestern turned it on the second quarter, outscoring them 33 to 5.
Okay, they ramped up the pressure.
They must have done something. Champion, for not even the day, shot 11 of 49 from the floor, 6 of 23 from 3.
This is like Butch Jones champions. Okay, all right.
Oh,
Not
they're
of basketball.
Yeah, I don't think in life.
They were out-rebounded 56 to 30. Now, they only turned it over 32 times in the game.
Okay.
Okay, like improvement.
Northwestern shot 33 of 76 from the floor, 12 of 38 from 3. Only 18 offensive rebounds also. But on the flip side of that, Champion had 3 offensive
Okay. Yeah,
rebounds
they're not
in
getting
the
after.
game. Yeah. Finally, we will wrap it up in men's junior college basketball, and one that you will not get. The Cal
Bears.
Maritime.
Midshipman.
No.
Yeah.
You're on the right course with like the
Naval Admirals.
They're the Clippers.
No.
Dang.
They
Actually,
are
I had
the
that
you would never even think of, they are the keel haulers.
Yeah. Oh, they're pirates. Okay, yeah.
You knew that was a pirate?
The what?
Pirates always say that. Oh, keel haul him.
Excuse
I
me?
did.
Really?
I've never
I
heard
thought they just
this.
said R, matey.
Oh, it was,
Right.
no. They have more vocabulary
John's
than
been
that.
secretly going to pirate groups for a long
Like,
time, so he
I
knows the vernacular.
Are you
was
the member of
unfamiliar.
a pirate cosplay group? And we didn't
How do
know?
y'all not know this?
Oh, okay.
Play an instrument, maybe. You'll learn some stuff.
All right. They went down to the Sacramento State.
Vikings.
Rattlers?
No, they're the Hornets.
They are the Hornets.
They are the Hornets.
106 to 44.
Okay.
In public.
I mean, listen.
They got keel hauled.
Sometimes these things just happen. And that's the way they go down. So those are just a couple of your bad box scores of the day from last night. Listen, it's not like we couldn't keep going. Western Illinois knocked off Culver Stockton. I think it was just the two of them, Culver and Stockton, 89-42.
Malone didn't show up?
I don't believe so.
That seems unfair.
No. Don't think that happened. Just
Culver's a good restaurant, though.
They have the not like the Frosties. What do they call them? Something different?
Yeah, something like that. I think that might be the only thing I've ever had there, but it was legit.
Frozen custard. That's it.
Yeah, custard. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Those rip.
We'll see them in. I'll see them in Como this weekend. I know they got them up there. So.
Oh yeah.
Attaboy.
That's Spain. Is that Canada? I feel like it's
mainly close. Might as well be. Yeah, right there. I mean, they do have the borderline trophy that they give out. So, I guess
Trinket.
That's the same thing. Two others. Hutchinson Community College knocked off Heston College 104-53 in men's hoops last night.
Okay.
Also, Kansas City, Kansas Community College. I feel like if you're Kansas City Community College, you can just go. You don't need to throw the state in there also, but I guess they did. They knocked off the University of St. Mary JV 88-42.
Okay.
Didn't even want to bring the varsity in. Okay. That was ultimate disrespect.
Or maybe the varsity just said, we're too good for you. But the University of St. Mary JV did shoot 17 of 76.
That's very patriotic.
I mean, they put them
5 of 41 from behind the three-point line.
Yeah, at some point you got to
That ain't
attack the
it.
glass.
When you get to like three-pointer 22, 31, and 2 or 3 have gone in, when do you just say,
It's time to
I
attack.
know that's where we live and die, but we're dead.
No.
Maybe let's try the layups now.
That's the gambler's fallacy. No, you're due. You will go in at one point. You've got to keep trying.
Okay. You just say, nope, we're not doing that, and you move on from it. All right, I guess that's
Takes us
it.
one. All it takes is one.
Sorry, Greg, no Alzheimer's for you today. But
I'm shocked that we didn't at least tease the audience to an all-timer that was heading our way. I'm just surprised by that.
I'm not going
Nothing
to
else.
tease him into something that's not there.
You have before.
I mean, I could have attempted to go there with Neosho County Community College knocking off Southwestern College. Not sure if they want to get away, but they do after this game because they went down 142-65.
Oof.
Okay.
142 points in a game.
That loss
in a
came at
game.
them fast.
Are you suggesting that Neosho no-showed?
No, Neosho won
They left that one in the trash.
142-65. I'm suggesting
I dug
that
it.
Southwestern College wanted to get away and did by losing by 80 points, basically. Yeah. They
Fair
were
enough.
20 of 62 for the game. 5 of 31 from 3.
Should've-
Once again, when you get to three-pointer 17, 24, and you've made 1 or 2, do you not just say, guys, no more?
They were not early birds.
Either that or start launching from half court.
Oh, at that point, right. Something's got to go in.
Just let it rip. Neosho, by the way, 54 of 88.
Oh, they were just locked in. That's what happened.
16 of 24 from 3.
See, exactly. They were just dialed in. Sometimes you lose games
Told
like
you.
that.
How about this from 3-point? Champ Pollocky, 3 of 3. Ferry Joseph, 3 of 3. JT Peterson, 1 of 1.
See?
3 players did
yeah.
not miss a 3.
When it's going in, big dog, hey, it's tough.
And old Joel Jerry,
mean-
we're not sure if he's
Old J.
More Joel or Jerry.
Old JJ.
he was 6 of 9 from 3, 28
Okay.
points in the game.
He flew Spirit. Everyone else
You
was
gotta
Delta.
love the
Okay.
double. You gotta love the double first name though.
So listen, Southwestern only turned it over 24 times. That's in
That's
this
that's
segment of the
reasonable.
show, that's called limiting your turnovers.
Correct. Yeah. They're not Spirit.
Ball
Right.
control.
Some segments not so much, but this segment that's cutting them down for size.
Yeah, ball control. Feel good about it.
That's it. All right. Those are your bad box scores of the day. No all-timers, but some good ones either way.
Yes.
All right, when we come back tomorrow, we'll give you the Rubik's Cubelic.
Let's go.
Wimp may or may not have a blue plate. I don't know. He'll make that decision based on line movement or alleged line movement. And we'll begin to dive into the weekend's games. It's a huge weekend of college football coming up. Now we got the ratings behind us, rankings, college football playoff. We don't have to worry about those. We can dive into the football and some of the matchups, what we're going to get. Bama, LSU, Missouri, Oklahoma. We'll answer this question tomorrow. Is South Carolina Vandy the low-key game of the weekend?
Ooh.
Yes, lock.
Well, you just ran all our listeners off for tomorrow. But
Well, there
so
you
much
go.
for that.
It's the opposite of teasing and not paying it off.
So much for them coming back.
No one listened. Everyone turns it off when bad box score starts. You heard what Wimp said.
Yeah, because they're embarrassed their team might show up.